Welcome to the Non-Sequitur Show. Continual watching beyond this point may result in terminal face palming and a complete loss of wokeness. You have been warned.
All right. Hey, welcome, everybody. It is time for the NonSequitur Show. And yeah, we're going to have some fun today. One, because I am like caffeinated like a mofo right now. I seriously didn't get much sleep last night. So I was like, I'm just going to drink coffee, get through the day, and have this stream because I've been looking forward to this stream because this is like one of those topics you guys know I love. The auditors and the frauditors, right? And the sovereign citizen nonsense. So I got a couple of awesome people joining me today. One, I got a co-host for the show, a co-host, and he's not going to fuck me over, hopefully. But I got the amazing James Freeman. Well, you got to say it. It's James Freeman. I love the way you say that. Is that copyrighted, by the way, the way you say that? Because I know, like Ed McMahon, when he was like, "Here's Johnny." That might be true. But anyways, so little backstory here on what we're going to be talking about because I was doing this thing on this Chille, and I happened to come across this video by potentially criminal who is my main guest here, and he'll introduce himself and kind of talk about himself. But I would watch one of his videos, was in the video description, and dude, I was hooked. And so I love your video. Can I use your first name, or you go by your first name? James, they couldn't hear you. Say that again real quick, because say I'm James Freeman.
Hey everybody, it's James Freeman.
There we go. Okay, awesome. Okay, they couldn't hear James for some reason. All right, so Sean, but you could go ahead and introduce yourself and tell people about you, because I want everybody to go sub to you, dude, because I like your shit. I've watched some of your videos, but the one you had about Chille, dude, I gotta tell you, I as soon as you started talking about buttholes and techno-arco-fascist state transparency, re-education vehicles, man, I was hooked, dude. I was hooked. You know, and fun fact, talking about buttholes is kind of how I met James, too, but we were in a bar, it was late, and long story, but anyways.
Totally different, but yes.
But anyways, welcome to the show, Sean.
Thanks, Steve. So yeah, my name's Sean Martin. I run a channel, Potentially Criminal. I am a defense attorney. I practice out of the Cleveland area. Kind of makes obvious what I cover, but I try to focus on criminal defense topics and topics of what's going on in the news and criminal features of that. I know there's other attorneys, like for example, they did the whole Johnny Depp Amber thing.
Oh God.
Yeah, which that was a whole thing in of itself. The only thing I ever made a video on was like, okay, well, can Amber ever get in trouble for the perjury she did? Mm-hmm. And
I watched your video on that.
Is no.
Yeah, you had it was like 12-minute long video or something. It was a really short video.
Yeah. But, I mean, her bigger issues are with the Australians at this point. So
yeah, because of their customs with the animals. Yeah, yeah. Well, and by the way, that's a whole different topic. We should probably have a different show these days, because I was really into the Amber Heard thing. One, because I feel for Johnny Depp. I too was basically falsely accused of stuff, and people lied under oath, and so I get it, right? But as far as like the perjury thing, I don't know how people don't get convicted for perjury when they lie under oath. That's the whole point of having perjury. So I don't know why she went.
It is, but I guess I would just say it like this. The biggest reason why, especially in a civil case, I mean, the last time we had perjury in a civil case, really that anybody ever knew of was Bill Clinton.
Hmm.
So
really, because I just sent you a detective. I want my ex partner to be tried for perjury.
Yeah.
But anyways, we'll have that for another day.
Sure.
Because I want to talk about this guy Chille Decastro. Is that how you pronounce his last name? Decastro. Yeah, that's right. Chille Decastro. And I got to tell you, I know nothing about this guy. I had James on. James knows a little about him. But this is what I've looked into in the last couple months. This dude is something else. Jay, you got a history with him, right, James? I mean, I don't know if you've met him, but you've got some history with him.
A very, very, very short history. He tried to reach out to me, 8-9 months ago, I think, when he kind of first started coming on the scene, I guess. And I just flat out ignored him. I went and looked at a couple of his things, and I was like, oh, crap, steer clear. And I just ignored him. Yeah. But he just kept reaching out, and people think that I'm only a smartass and an a-hole to cops. And little did he know, I'm an a-hole to just about everybody.
That's true.
And so he really wanted to get my attention. He got it. I trolled him really bad on a live stream one time. I brought him up, said, hey, man, tell us all about your transparency utopian idea or whatever. First, I trolled him, actually, and I said, hey, that's my idea. 360 cams, re-education camps for liberty. That's my idea. And made him come up and defend that it was his idea. And then once he came on, I muted my mic so he couldn't hear me, but the audience could, put him off in the corner and talk to the audience while he rambled in the background.
For about an hour.
40 minutes.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So, that's mine and Chille's history. So since then, he went from loving to hating me.
Yeah. Oh, he turned on your heartbeat. So, Sean, in your video, you talk about this guy Chille, who he claims to be basically a constitutional legal expert, constitutional scholar.
He's a learned man.
Yeah, very learned, very well versed in the legal profession. To me, it's honestly, he seems like he's practicing law without a license. What do I know? I'm not a lawyer, but he does seem to get out legal advice that he doesn't know anything about. But he's also an actor, a writer, a director. I mean, he's got credits like the
GHB dealer.
He's a Oh, dude, the GHB thing. Let me
actually, we now know for a fact that he got hemmed up on some stuff.
Okay, so let me ask you about this. I didn't want to go straight to the GHB stuff because he had said that's not a date rape drug. That was his words. I mean, I heard him plain as day. I'm not making this, guys. Guys, I swear to God, I'm not making this up. He said that's not the date rape drug. It's not a date rape drug.
It's true. Bill Cosby backed him up on that.
Yes. Then they shared some Quaaludes.
Yeah, it's just lewds. No, and he said alcohol is the rape drug. It's not the GBH.
Yeah. GHB is much like in Predator. And Jesse Ventura said it turns you into like a sexual tyrannosaur. According to Chille, and it's just a sex drug, and it makes you just go crazy.
He did say this, yeah. I mean, he literally was trying to advocate that it's not. You know, when I slip it into a woman's drink, I'm just getting her to relax. I'm not. That's it. You know, and he's dead serious about this. He's not trying to be, you know, kind of silly or anything like that. Even though it's not something to be joking around with per se. But I mean, it's like, dude, it's like, is he so not self-aware of how he sounds when he's talking about a date rape drug that he's saying is not a date rape drug, but it's the alcohol that's the date rape drug? Is he?
I mean, as a defense attorney, I worked as a public defender when I first got out of law school, and we received training on dealing with people and how do you recognize when people have mental health issues and certain issues going on. Just so you can bring it up that maybe this person needs treatment, but also how you navigate and deal with them and interact with them. I can only imagine if he actually got assessed, he would tag a million boxes. I think some of it's just he likes to lie and try, he's convinced himself of this, but I also just think there's something running. He's running on a different script than the rest of us.
Well, give us the backstory on him, because and get into the whole transparency buses, because that just blew my mind.
Yeah. Okay, so I got into Chille when he came to Ohio, and I ended up seeing him on I forget, somebody who was making fun of Frauditors, and he ended up being in Ohio, so I started following him around because, I are an attorney in Ohio, so why not? And yeah, it's just, he can, he remembers a case, he remembers the name of a case, and then every once in a while he gets it right, but then like 90% of the time, just completely wrong. Wrong in the application of the law, wrong pretty much with everything. Or he does what people commonly do, they read through a court case and they, out of a paragraph, they find like a sentence or part of a sentence that, you know, we agree with so and so, and they're like, oh, that's it. They agree with me. That means it's right. They forget the rest of. But in this case, you know, it doesn't apply.
It's very what's cognitive bias, and they don't read the whole. They don't read the whole. I get that when it comes to like a paper. I do philosophy stuff. I see people read a paper and they cherry pick what they want out of it, not reading and comprehending the entire paper, right?
Yeah.
But so this guy claims to be, like you said, be a constitutional scholar, and he gives advice to these auditors. And James knows the auditors. James and the auditors go way back, obviously. Yes. So, and I will tell James, yes, James is a troll. He trolls everybody equally, including myself. I would have it no other way. So he's an equal opportunity asshole, but he is one of the better auditors. I enjoy his content. Like him, don't like him, I don't give a shit. But I find him entertaining. That's all I care. So.
Yeah, and unlike you know, James, Chille doesn't actually know what the fuck he's talking about is the big problem. He's very deceitful. A lot of people have interacted with him. He moves from place to place, and it's very clear after a while he wears out his welcome very quickly. There's a lot of allegations he steals money. There's a lot of allegations he's running scams. You know, for example, if somebody there was a guy who got killed by police here in Ohio. He showed up and tried to like comfort the widow, and it's like, oh, send the money to me and I'll make sure she gets it, instead of, oh, just send it straight to her.
Yeah, he asked her to co-sign for a loan for him for a vehicle.
Well, he's done that with a couple people.
I watched that poor lady. She was talking about how she had lost her child, and he came in like he was going to be the savior of mankind. He was going to have 100,000 people descend upon Ohio Capitol, whatever. I guess one person showed up at the rally, took advantage of this poor woman, scammed the shit out of her, or tried to scam. I don't think she fell for it, but she, allowed him to stay for a while. But then he was like, hey, I need a good car. Can you co-sign a loan for me? To a grieving mother?
Yeah.
That's sick, dude. That's sick.
I just want to interject there. That was, I think, when he was in Missouri.
Yeah, it was Caleb Slay.
And just to let you guys know, that's when he really first started really trying to reach out to me. He sent me a message on Facebook and invited me to stay at that home with him. Said there's plenty of room for me. At the time, I didn't know what was going on. I thought this was his house. And it wasn't until just a month ago or so that I realized he invited me to stay at someone else's home without them ever having a clue that I was invited.
Are you so glad that you did not go? Not that you would have anyways, but man, hey, I'm James,
thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah. Scoot over, I'm crashing next to you, just,
Yeah. And I guess the biggest thing with Chille, his basic legal foundation is everything wrong with America is because of the Supreme Court case Terry versus Ohio. And that allowed police to search people for the officer safety without probable cause.
Which I don't think.
And that was.
You don't even. I mean, you're criminal defense attorney, but I don't know anybody that really has a problem with that.
Well, I do. I mean,
do you?
I would like to see Terry go away because, yes, you should have to have probable cause to conduct a search.
Even for reasonable safety?
You got a bulletproof vest, man, and a gun. I mean, and you got bros that show up at the drop of a hat. Like,
be less of an asshole and you might be a little safer too.
Look, James, as you know, is a full-on almost anarchist, right? I mean, if not, I don't know what he defines himself as, but it's some kind of anarchy type thing, right? What do you call it, James? What do you?
Libertarianism, voluntarism.
Well, you're not.
Principle.
But you're not like Adam Kokesh type voluntarism, right? Did you ever watch the episode with Adam Kokesh?
I'm well aware who Adam Kokesh is.
Well, good, because next time he's on, I'm taking you with me. Okay, because next time he's on.
Yeah. No, I would actually say that we're probably fairly closely aligned.
Okay. All right, so
I mean, as far as applications of how things actually work in a society where you don't initiate violence and force against people to get what you want, we may differ, but.
So when it comes to Terry of Ohio, for like a simple pat down, you still find that to be evasive, Sean?
I do, because it's what came from that. It's how you now, after Terry, it became, well, you pat people down, and there's a couple cases. Like one of them's Minnesota v. Dickerson, where they're patting a guy down and I thought it was contraband. And then it turned into, can the cops manipulate what's in your pocket to figure out what's there? And then basically they feel something and they're like, oh, I heard a crinkle and my training experience, that was drugs. So they shove their hand in your pocket and pull whatever's out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
No,
know,
they can definitely abuse these things. Yeah. There's no question. All this stuff's ripe for abusing.
And it just keeps going from there. It gets into like Michigan v. Long, where after you've been removed from a car, they can like frisk the car because you were in that area. Like it doesn't stop the amount of, you know, exceptions and pushes to it. And that's the problem I have. Now, I don't agree with Chille that if you get rid of that, that fixes everything in the world. I mean, I would argue qualified immunity is probably a bigger issue.
We all three agree on that. Yeah. I can tell you right now, qualified immunity has got to go, or at least be diminished exceptionally. I know James wants it abolished completely, right, James?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that would be a much bigger thing.
And I think if you abolish it, I mean, oh great, a bunch of cops quit. It's like, okay, all right, bye. I mean,
well, I mean, but let me ask you this: though, in any other job that you have, you don't get some kind of magical immunity if you violate some of these civil rights. You could be sued as an independent person rather than the person you're working for. Correct? Why do they get a special dispensation?
The only other people that really have immunity that's bearing qualified immunity are prosecutors, judges, and vaccine companies.
And is that through because of lobbying and legislation?
Well, no. Judicial immunity. I mean, no judge is going to start saying, "Oh yeah, you can sue this other judge over here." So that's more of just it's judicial, and then through prosecution. I mean, you know, once again, the government's going to protect the government at the end of the day.
Yeah, so. I agree, but I got to tell you, when I watch these First Amendment audits, and I kind of do want to ask you guys, especially your opinion on them, because I get mixed about them. I find them they are entertaining, straight up. Okay, let's put it this way. I have a Ibeagami Press. I watch him. I watch James. I watch Long Island Audit. I watch a whole bunch of them. Some of them are better than others. Don't get me wrong. But when I'm watching them, first, I think some of them do misinterpret the law a little bit, and second, most importantly, what I think is going to happen is that by them doing these First Amendment audits, the laws are going to change. It's not going to be for the good. They're going to start making things more difficult rather than making it more easier, because I understand that you want to exercise the rights. I get that. I'm totally pro, Constitution, and yes, they have the right to do these things. But is it having a backfire effect because now auditors are getting arrested for these things, and they are getting prosecuted for these things, are they not? I mean, Chille got arrested. Some convicted.
Well, yeah, but Chille got arrested because he was an idiot. When it's time to leave, you have to leave. If the building's closed, it's closed.
That's anywhere. That's anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. He was it was for trespassing that he got arrested for. Yeah.
It also doesn't help when you say the whole day, like, I'm okay with getting arrested. I dare you to arrest me. And then, if he had turned around and walked out or said, okay, cool, I'm leaving, he wouldn't have had that issue. But no, when auditors do get arrested, sometimes they may not have misunderstood. They may not have understood the law correctly, but a lot of times it is the cops overreacting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
It is the ones making mistakes. And yes, some auditors, might be abrasive. They might, but you know what? They don't have to be nice. It's their First Amendment right to do as they wish. They aren't hurting anybody. They're taking pictures. They're filming. Like Emmett Ganson, when that lady almost ran him over. I forget what video that is. He was filming her and he didn't answer her question right, so she turned around, she basically tried to run him over.
I saw. I've seen every one of his videos actually.
Yeah, like if you're that much of an emotional IED, walking down the street, that type of lady probably would freak out if she got an extra pickle on her burger.
Yeah, those people are scary.
Yeah,
and if people like Ibeagami Press wants to make videos about that, again, I find them entertaining. I still think they get. And again, I'm not a legal person. The way I read Poster 7 isn't exactly the way I think that the auditors are reading it. But it needs to be that it's made when they ask you to leave at that point. Then you're probably not going to win.
Well, so you're right. You're not going to win, but if you are in the right, I mean, I think James just showed a video of this lady out in California, and the cops told her to get off the sidewalk. You have to leave, and she's standing on the sidewalk, filming. Okay, you know what? I don't blame her for saying, okay, fuck you, dare you to take me to jail. Because at that point, I don't blame people for standing up at that point. Now, if you go out and act, spazzy and make a scene, okay, well, that might be different. But the idea that, these laws are going to get passed because people are exercising their rights, well, then what good is it to have the right if the minute you exercise it, we start trimming away at it.
But they can do time, place, and manner, right? They can, so they could put these little civil, local statutes in saying that it has to be a certain time, place, and manner. Now, I do agree, like these public places where they want you to sign in, that's bullshit.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Yes, there's time, place, and manner restrictions, but I think, I don't know if you're getting at the Arizona law where you have to stay 8 feet away. Yeah, well, that law, if you read it, it's not very clear how that works. Who does the 8 feet? Who
Which
gets
is really
the
a big
warnings?
problem.
Yeah, I mean,
The
somebody's
vagueness of it.
Yeah, somebody's gonna get arrested and it will get overturned. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's not that these guys are really getting in the way. It's because people don't like being seen. Police don't like the fact that there's people there questioning them. They don't like the fact people are hassling them, which, okay, I mean, go work at Burger King because nobody's going to hassle you in the back.
Well, they're used to having their authority not undermined.
Yes.
They're used to having the power trip, right? Before the advent of the camera and the rise of the people having individual cameras, and they didn't have body cams. Let's be realistic and straight out. Cops did what the fuck they wanted, and they got away with it. There's nobody in the world that's going to argue that. I think it's not an idiot. They did some shady shit. Now, I'm not saying all cops. I'm actually pro cop, but I mean there were a lot of dishonest cops, and basically the courts just took their word for it. And now people are talking back to them and having their authority challenged because people are going, hey, look, you're no better than I. And the only way you would have any kind of right over me is if I break the law. If I'm not breaking the law, fuck off. You're not my boss kind of shit. And they're not used to that. And I think that what do they call it when you piss off a cop? Citation by or arrest by cop.
Contempt of cop.
Contempt of cop. Thank you.
Yeah.
Contempt of cop is a legitimate phenomenon.
It happens all the time.
So let me ask James. James, what do you prefer as far as like when you go out and you do these things? You've had your styles you've done the gamut on the different styles. You've been a real asshole, and I've seen you actually be pretty decent. What do you find is more effective though?
Well, it depends on what your intention is, and I think that every single one of us that goes out, obviously, there's no organization, right? Like with lawyers, there's a bar association.
There's oversight.
And what we're doing, there's no association, there's no rules, it's individuals acting on their own. So
you do have lackluster and the audit that do some, at least they have no official oversight, but they do some at
that's
least
kind of the
watching.
Free market overseeing itself, right?
Exactly.
But it depends, because a lot of times I go out with different intentions, and genuinely sometimes my intention is solely to troll a pig. And it's nothing more, nothing less. There's no deep concept to it. Initially when I started doing these videos, though, I wanted to give people a little bit of a deeper understanding of liberty. And the truth is, people want to be entertained. They don't want to be educated. They want something that's funny. That's
That's why I watch them. I just entertainment.
Right. And so when after I made the first video that I made that was only intended for a few friends to see, and then I didn't even know about these so-called auditors, and they're like, hey man, you're an auditor, you should go do this. And I was like, people are into this crap? Okay.
Oh, how little you knew back then, right?
Yeah. So I said, so you guys go to a government building for no reason? Like, that's what you do? And I said, yeah, I started looking at it though, and I said, I could use this though to kind of show people what liberty was intended to be, or at least my perception of what I thought liberty was intended to be.
Well, Sean, could you tell the audience the difference between rights and liberty? Because I guarantee it that most people don't understand the difference between them.
Well, I mean, there are differences, but for the most part, people, I think, walking on the street and would just construe them to be the same things. That your rights and liberties are the same thing, and there are distinctions for that, but I mean, I think actually something James kind of mentioned here, people don't want to be educated, but also people like to think they like the First Amendment, they support the First Amendment until they're actually dealing with the First Amendment, and it's some guy standing there filming on the street and they're walking by. Well, I don't like that. Well, but that's the First Amendment. And then they say, but I don't like that. And then you find out it's not necessarily they don't like they like the First Amendment. They like the idea of the First Amendment. They actually don't. Once it hits them in the face, they suddenly change their mind.
Yeah, they like the idea, but not the application.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they really don't even like the idea, though, because the idea, I mean, the First Amendment was to protect unpopular speech, because you don't need to protect something that we all agree with, right? And so the First Amendment is to protect things that you and I probably aren't going to like, that most of us probably aren't going to like.
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point, because one of your videos, as a matter of fact, James, I know I actually watched James' stuff. It's like, really, Steve? You watch that dude? But you had a video.
You don't have anything better to do?
I know, right? I have no life whatsoever when I start watching James Freeman videos. You had a video that really, really was brilliant, and I don't use that term often because most people are stupid than shit. But there was a video of a couple cops that were basically saying that they were offended by the word fuck, but without the asterisk, with an asterisk even. But you called like the detective or whatever, and you said, "Hey, I'm offended by the word Hamburger." What was it, Hamburger Police Department or something like that?
Yeah. I told him I'm offended by the word police.
Tell the story of that, because dude, I thought that was brilliant because that made a hell of a good point.
And he completely missed the point. You can hear it in the phone call, and that's what it is. People just stick to their biases. But we decide that he had decided that the word fuck with an asterisk was offensive to him or to other people possibly. And so he was trying to tell this guy, if someone complains about that, then it's a crime. And he said it's free speech until someone is offended, is what he said.
That was his word.
And so I called him up and said, well, good to know. I'm personally offended by the word police, and your officers have it written all over their cars, their uniforms. I want them all arrested. Throw them all in jail. I'm offended. And it points out the ridiculousness of it, right? So who gets to pick and choose the word that is or isn't offensive and decide to throw people in cages for it?
Yeah, by the way, you got balls of steel for that too, man. That conversation, man, that guy on the other end. But so Sean, what is the law on that? Because again, I this is what I do like the First Amendment auditor stuff, because what those cops says was bullshit. Cops lie. They lie. There is no law that says, hey, if I'm offended by what your free speech is, it is against the law. And they were literally trying to bully this guy. And he was, and they were having none of it. And James was like, "Oh, well, I'm offended by this." And he calls the police department and says, "I want these cops arrested because I was offended by their police, the police saying police or something."
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, having the word fuck. I mean, a guy walked through a courthouse in California with the words "fuck the draft" on the back of his jacket.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court had a long thing on that. Did they not?
It's Cohen v. California, and that's, if you can walk into a courthouse with the word fuck on your jacket, that should show you pretty much it's a fairly wide berth about what you can do.
Absolutely.
As far as your speech is concerned. Now, yes, there's, all the different little offshoots of it and things to focus on, but generally speaking, yeah, you can, walk down the street and speak your mind. When it gets to the idea, though, there is the issue of like fighting words, but that alone is a concept of, yes, it's in the Supreme Court, but that has been, if you try to look through lower courts, it's not exactly clear, and it's different from place to place and state to state. So
it's ambiguous what they mean.
Yeah.
I mean, people generally know what fighting words are, but when the application of it, as far as being illegal, and here's I will probably agree with. I think James might agree with me on this. When it comes to fighting words, I don't think any speech like that. Just words should be a crime. I think you should be able to say whatever the hell you want. If you get knocked the fuck out for it, I don't give a shit. But I don't know why it'd be criminal just for verbiage. Now, again, if it's something that's going to create a scene, like you yell fire in a crowded room, theater, or something that's going to
don't use that one. Don't use that one.
Well, you
use that one.
You don't like that one?
No, it's because that's from US v. Schenck. That was from like 1919. And Schenck was a socialist, which that doesn't matter. He was protesting the draft and World War I. So they considered protesting the draft and protesting going to fight in Europe as a clear and present danger.
Oh,
they
my
considered
God.
that on the same level as shouting fire in a theater, which back then there were like theater, stampedes and tramplings.
Yes.
So that's why they use that term. But yeah, that's when people use that case, like, think about it. Like, the Supreme Court said that is a clear and present danger, saying, hey, we shouldn't fight in a war.
And
hey,
ridiculous.
The draft is wrong.
Yeah, that's just...
So I'm sorry. It's just that when people use that line,
that's cool. But
that's the nature of making any kind of speech illegal, though, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it is a line that should never be touched.
Exactly.
That no amount of speech should ever be touched, because they're always going to go after these things that are important. If it wasn't important, if it didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying to stop you from saying it.
Well, what do you think when they say like when certain words are violence?
Well, I think if you're talking about the concept of fighting words, the way courts interpret that is if you say something that's so grossly offensive, somebody would respond with violence. And I think probably the most obvious example, might be a little cliche, is if you start using racial slurs against certain people. there are, like if you use there's a certain word starts with N.
Yeah,
if you walk up to a black person, yeah, and I'm just saying if you use
I'm well familiar with it. I have yeah.
Yes.
My roommate has to deal with that kind of racist
Yes.
stuff all the time, and she's people use that word against her, and I would knock them the fuck out if I'm ever
Sure.
hanging out with her when they say
but that's one of those words where if you use it, there's a very good likelihood somebody's going to respond.
Yeah, and I agree.
So,
I agree with that.
And that way, it's right. And I don't agree with it, but I think if you had to put lawmakers on the spot with that type of situation, they'd say, "Well, we're trying to keep you from saying it to avoid people beating each other."
But at the same token, I mean, yeah, that's being proactive. I get that, right? But
yes.
you're basically still limiting what somebody should say. Look, I think you have a right to walk up to somebody, say something completely derogatory, and get the shit beat out of you. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do with your life. Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so I'm not actually familiar with what fighting words are. What specific words have been ruled as fighting words?
Well, in the case that the Supreme Court, it was called Shaplinski v. New Hampshire. He called a officer I think he was a Jehovah's Witness, and it was during World War II. He used the words like "you're a goddamn fascist" and "a goddamn racketeer," and for that time frame,
that would have been fighting.
And
words.
In New Hampshire, I'm betting as he's flicking his suspenders and picking his fedora, throwing it on the ground, ready to fight. That those were considered, oh, you couldn't say those words. And that's the issue of like what exactly are fighting words. There's, it's different from place to place over the years. So, but no, I agree.
Yeah.
They shouldn't try to think ahead. If somebody says something and you get tuned up for it, well,
yeah,
now not to do that again.
Yeah, bad move, right? So
Yeah.
when it comes to this guy Chille, which I mean, he I don't know if he's racist or not. I kind of think so, but
there have been I will say from Kate over at Masshole, they found a bunch of recordings of Chille with different interviews he's given and talks about things. If he's not racist, he really is hard to tell.
Yeah,
because he sounds like one.
I'm going to probably, if I had a bet on it, right?
Yeah.
But
also, real quick, hold on, Steve.
Yes.
Chille, if you're listening to this, I dare you to sue me. Lake County, Ohio, Court of Common Pleas, Painesville, Ohio, proper venue. You can find me there.
Yes.
Is he vexatious? Is he one of those people that thinks that everything's solved?
Yes.
And by the way,
Yes.
I'm one to speak, right? I've gotten multiple lawsuits that I've sued. But I'm not litigious. I'm the victim, right? But I mean, it's like, he thinks that you could silence people by litigation, because I know some people like that. Trust me, I've dealt with people like that. I cannot stand people like that, because that to me abuses the legal system.
He's suing me, Steve, but I'm still here talking about him. So
yeah, well, you're part of the secret federal lawsuit that's coming, James. You better watch out.
Isn't your name on his master list?
Yeah. So he sues people, and he's filed a couple of lawsuits. He filed one in a county court here in Ohio, trying to sue the police and a couple other people for defamation. Yes, and it was a 2-page lawsuit. It was a burner of a lawsuit. That's how good it was. Didn't really state damages or really causes of action, and I'm not going to give him help on that. And then he's filed a federal civil rights lawsuit for when he got arrested. It's very boring because there's nothing in it really. I mean, you can go find civil rights lawsuits. They are very well put together. They're very meticulous. The claims that are argued, what's laid out. His is just awful. And then he helps people. He basically ghostwrites and puts them together. But yes, he threatens to sue all the time. He's made it clear, if I sue you, I know it's going to cost you money. You're going to have to get an attorney. So even if I lose, I don't care.
He's a constitutional scholar. You think you would know how to do this?
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned it, because I the last time I read something on that, like, venue, I guess, so to speak, was, I don't know if you remember they were talking, they had a flagpole that would, they in some communities, city hall, and they would occasionally fly a flag for promoting of events or something like that. And a gay pride, I think they wanted to come in or something like that, and they wouldn't allow them to have it or something along those lines. But anyways, this turned into a whole thing, and it went to all the way to the I think Supreme Court. But it was pages and pages of meticulously detailed line item enumeration. It was ridiculously complicated, the case law and all this stuff. And so, I mean, I was like, okay, I'm just going to try to parse this out, because I don't know what the hell to even read in this. I mean, if this guy Chille doesn't grasp that law is complicated, and he's just being vexatious at that point. How should people go about trying to shut that kind of shit down, though?
Well, you have to he's just started doing it, so he hasn't been labeled vexatious yet.
Oh.
So that's part of the problem.
Go ahead, Chille, sue me. I don't give a fuck. I've already got. I've had 5 lawyers since I've been on fucking YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
5 lawyers.
Well, and also, unlike federal court, which may be a vexatious litigator, at least I know I've seen it happen before, where people have pushed bullshit lawsuits at a local level. Courts will hold you in contempt. So, he talks a big game, but he doesn't do anything. Also, somebody, constitutional auditor, is asking a question about why it's about having 2 grams of mushrooms is a crime. Because the police have more guns than you do. That's the only reason why it's a crime, because the government said so.
Yeah, I think
I don't like all lawyers, but I like you.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's a crime. The government decided it's a crime.
No, I happen to agree with that. I'm I'm more of a libertarian. I'm like, smoke what you want. I don't give a shit. But yeah, look, at one time, marijuana was so illegal that if you had even a joint on you, you could get years in jail. And I do think that was inappropriately applied to different things for racial reasons. I really do believe that. And if you correct me on that, I still probably not gonna believe you. But I do think it was racial motivated. Well,
I think there was racial motivation, but there was also a big issue about taking out the hemp industry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hemp was and I don't know why we don't use hemp for a lot more stuff, but I'm not a partaker of I don't smoke joints, but I don't care if somebody does. I might have an edible, but the fact remains is the only reason it was legal is because people made it illegal. But now nobody gives a shit. But at one time, alcohol was illegal too during Prohibition. So give it a few more years. In California, I know they are trying to pass a law to remove in California any type of criminality when it comes to psilocybin, and it's going to happen eventually. It's just a matter of time. Why? Because who gives a shit? Why would you put somebody in jail for that kind of shit when you got people that are violent on the streets? I mean, that's the people that need to be in jail. I don't give a shit about white collar stuff as much as that.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to derail, but he was asking, and
by all means.
that's one of those ones where, man, I'd love to tell you there's not the reason why. There's some good reason behind it, but no, that's the government decided, and we can't stop them.
He also asked you this. He says, "Is there one attorney on this planet that will give a straight answer to my question?" Well, let's find out. Do either of these guys know what crime actually is? Well, let's find out.
I'm not an attorney, by the way. I don't.
He doesn't even play one on YouTube. This guy is actually no, wait, this guy, wait, let me do that.
I'm a constitutional law scholar, but I'm not an attorney.
That guy is a natural lawyer. Yeah.
Sean isn't an attorney.
Yeah, he has actually passed the bar. So.
Yeah. I mean, traditionally the concepts of crime were things where you actually wronged someone. Those were traditionally the crimes. And then you had some more of the vague crimes where you wronged the state. But even then, for the longest time, absent treason or stealing something from the king, you didn't really commit too many crimes against the crown, and you really didn't commit too many crimes against your fellow commoners unless you robbed them or murdered them. So I'd argue really the true way crime should be looked at is there harms to people.
So they're basically
sometimes there can be harms to society, but generally speaking it's got to generate some sort of harm.
But it's a type of tort then in that case, wouldn't it be? I mean, obviously, there's not a criminal aspect with a tort case, obviously, but still, but you still harm somebody, right?
Yes, there is, but I think there's a difference between I killed your cow and, I came in your house and killed half your family. So, and we have crime because we don't just want people, otherwise we do turn into then tribal warfare where now, okay, well, I go hunt that guy down and I kill half of his family. Or I kill him, and then his family's mad, and it goes back and forth. So, that is kind of one of the areas where governance is meant to try to, we take care of that for you to stop you from doing it.
Well, that would
really
be
it doesn't.
good.
Really,
it doesn't do it. I agree.
Right. Yeah. Well, what it does is, he kills your whole family. Instead of you going and hunting him down, the government goes and hunts him down. Yes. Either way, it's still the same thing happening. I think to some extent.
Well, and
they will try to keep you alive at least. Whereas I might not. I'll just kill you.
Sure.
Sure.
But that Chille kind of gets into that too with this whole social contract theory. Which, by the
Jesus
way,
Christ.
I tried to read about social contract one time, and I lost my shit. It's complicated. I don't know if you ever heard of a book called "The Things We Owe Each Other" by Scallion, because I like philosophy. It was beyond my pay grade. You know what I'm saying? I'm just thinking as, oh look, to get along, we need some kind of overarching public thing. But that's it. I mean, as far as that, I don't believe in social contracts to that extent. Does that make sense? Because they always seem to end up making the majority of the population dominant for everybody.
I think actually having like an explicit social contract, sure, but I think there's obviously something in society that we, operate around, but trying to delineate it and specifically put something together, like Chille likes to talk about Rousseau, which he's not good. I mean, with Rousseau, 51% of the population can eat the other 49%.
Yeah, and
it's okay.
And you got people that just don't bother to have anything to do with the system, and so they're letting the other people, they have a say for them.
Mm-hmm.
And but everybody in that society is giving some form of implicit consent to the governing body, correct?
Well, I mean, there's the idea that we all agree to do, like, we agree to some sort of level of governance because we're not just running out and taking care of it ourselves.
Right.
But yeah, we're getting in that. Yeah. But like you said, I think that gives then a whole nother philosophical thing there. But yes, that we just went deeper than Chille could ever go, though.
Yeah, no. I know my limitations. I do epistemology, and I wrote a paper on logic, and it's one of the. It was the top 0.5 of all of the papers read for the last 31 days on academic EDU. It's a popular paper, it's almost had 800 views for it. And I'll send it if you're interested in it. But I know my limitations.
I would like it.
So I like epistemology, right? Anything other than that, like philosophy of mind, I struggle, right? And so when I start getting into these other things, like reading Scallion and reading these very complicated political, social, psychological, all these things, I'm like, okay, you guys it's all yours, right? Because you have to realize certain people are pretty good at certain things. You get your own little niche, but anything outside of that little zone, you just have to recognize you may not be that great at it. Okay. So, I mean, you're a defense attorney, right? If you started doing like patent law, how do you think you would fare?
Oh God, I'd be scared.
Yeah, that shit's hard.
There's no way to touch it.
Yeah, it's like apples and oranges, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay. So anyway, so let's go back to Chille with tell me about.
Sorry.
No. By the way, the whole thing about the Non-Sequitur Show is that we love rabbit holes. We go all over the fucking place, man, dude.
Yeah.
But tell me about these re-education buses, because this is legit. Okay. What James was trolling him, because James was getting him to believe that all this shit came from James originally, and Chille stole it. He totally was trolling him on this. It was brilliant.
Forced re-education for freedom is my idea.
Yeah.
Yes. So Chille claims to be a civil libertarian. He claims to be one. He would like to abolish the police, and he believes that the job of police should actually be protecting of our rights, not enforcing laws. Which, okay, that part sounds good. At least changing it up. We'll get to why that doesn't matter.
Go tell mom too many devices are.
And then at that point, Chille wants to establish what's called transparency. And his idea of transparency is that police officers are wearing cameras. And they wear like these headsets, and they have cameras all around their head. And when they show up at a crime, they are able to film everything.
A 360 had basically a 360 panoramic viewpoint where they're just going out to be the eyes of society.
Yes. Now, it gets weird because Chille seems to think this idea of because you're being filmed, you're going to stop what you're doing if you're the bad guy.
Does he not realize there's cameras literally everywhere? When you walk outside, there's probably a camera on you somewhere.
Well, I mean, I've had clients who, hey, is your body camera on? Yeah. And then 3 minutes later, they're in a fist fight with the cops. Yeah. Or I've had a guy once, he was in a gas station with a shotgun, and he looks at the camera, he sees it's on, and he still goes to proceed and rob the store with the shotgun. And it's like the camera didn't stop him.
Dude,
transparency didn't work.
It didn't. I do loss prevention, and I stare at cameras a lot, and you'll see people looking at the camera. It's like that, and then they'll conceal, and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ! It's like really.
Yes.
But we got a super chat real quick before we go on. Scalzo's photo. Hey, we got a super chat. $5. Tell James Freeman to use his good microphone. Show some respect and sound better than a tin can. We need your smooth, beautiful voice and opinions.
Is my Is my mic?
It sounds good to me. I don't know. I just like your voice sucks.
Okay to me.
Yeah, that was your natural voice. I don't want to make fun of James's voice. No, I'm kidding. He does.
Oh man, yeah, I am using the garbage microphone. Thanks for yeah.
They know because they know.
Sitting right in front of me wasn't even being used.
Oh, that's why.
There we go.
No, it didn't sound bad to me. It didn't sound bad. I mean, it just sounded like you. James Freeman.
Is that any better?
Oh my god,
that's a very nice.
Oh
mic,
my god, dude. Yeah, that works for me. do that again. Do that again.
It's James Freeman.
And I'm straight as shit, and that works for me. I like that. Okay, yeah. So so that works. All right. So we fixed that. Thank you for the super chat. By the way, you didn't have to donate a super chat to let me know that. I do appreciate it. All super chats are very well appreciated. Because I lost a lot of money on this channel. I need to recoup something.
Don't even speak unless it's a super chat. Don't even try to regular chat.
Yeah. I don't watch your live chat anyway. Who are you
$50 and above. That's how you get recognized tonight.
Become a member of the channel. There you go. All right, so go ahead with this re-education crap.
So these guys are transparency officers, and the way they work is they're able to show up on the scene immediately. Well, the only way you can have police or his rights protectors show up on the scene immediately is basically by having them on every corner. Which, police who surveil everything and have cameras on them and are on every corner doesn't sound like civil libertarianism to me.
No, it sounds like techno-fascism.
Yes, it does. It does. It sounds like something a statist would argue.
Yeah, and I'm a minimalist when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's just like...
So they would record this. Now, Chille's idea of transparency is you automatically get the footage of what happened. And everybody gets it right away. You don't have to FOIA it. You don't have to get through discovery in a case. Whatever reason, you automatically get it, which I don't... His argument is I'll leave that alone to him because that part's a whole nother issue.
It's a mess.
It's streamed. It's streamed live to 2 different locations.
I'm getting to that part.
Check and a balance.
Yes. So Chille then wants 2 separate police agencies. One of them's called Locke after John Locke, and one of them's called Montesquieu after the French philosopher Montesquieu. And then Locke is watching what's going on in the cameras, and they're talking to this police officer that's on the ground. And then there's Montesquieu, and they are above Locke, and they watch the watchers who are watching the cop. And then they could jump in and say, "What are you doing? No, that's not a crime. Leave that person alone." So that's his idea of, well, he wants to establish multiple layers of a state security apparatus to correct things. And he harps on and on about power corrupting, but eventually you do have power, culminating in one spot. So there's going to be corruption there also. But anyways, so now the way Chille has it, for example, if there's a domestic violence situation, he says the camera guys show up, and then at some point, and Chille doesn't make this clear, and I think that's because Chille thinks he's the benevolent tyrant and the good tyrant, and this is a good idea. And let's say there's evidence of domestic violence. So you're taken away. If you fight, they will apparently wrap you up in Velcro straps. They won't handcuff you because those are torture cuffs. Mm-hmm. If you try to fight the police, they have these guys come in and he calls them poppers, but it basically sounds like a football coach with a tackle dummy who swats at you until you stop.
It's a pillow, isn't it, or something? A pop.
Basically it's a pillow. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a pillow. Yes. Yes. If you start beating your wife, you get to have a pillow fight with the police.
Jesus Christ, man. And by the way, we're not bullshitting you people. This guy literally is advocating for this. He's not he's not trolling people. He's just stupid. But I mean, he actually thinks these are good ideas.
You need, in South Park when they talk about Mormons, this is actually what they believe. Yeah, you need that on the screen.
By the way, I'm ex-Mormon, so I know a lot about stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. And it's a whole different channel. One of these days we'll talk about that. Yeah, they got some. Yeah, well, I really only joined the church because of a girl. Come on, what do you want? Okay. Well, whatever. Long story, but
yes.
Yeah. When South Park came out, and I'm like, holy shit, this is wow.
Yes,
it was reminded me of Dianetics and L. Ron Hubbard's Scientology.
Yeah, well, they did that one about Scientologists.
That was really good.
Oh, that was a good one.
So by the way, has Chille ever read 1984? I mean, is he familiar with that? Because it sounds like he gleaned some concepts from there.
And that's where he got all his ideas.
It sounds like it to me.
Yeah,
it really does.
Well, and it's scary because he read that and he's like, "Oh, this sounds like I can use some of this."
Oh, I was kidding.
Stay away from.
I was kidding. He actually, He read it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he can read it. Because
I don't know if he can read.
Somebody might have read it to him.
Yeah,
I had to read it. I had to read Alex Huxley's Brave New World and all that shit in fucking college. And I'm not a big fan of these things. I thought the movie was good. But yeah, it reminds me exactly of that. You know, I'm a man. 2 + 2 equals 2. 2 + 2 = 5.
5, yes.
Yeah.
So I think for Chille though, I think some of this is maybe he didn't read 1984, but it's this idea of, well, how can we stop things? Oh, we'll have cameras everywhere. You don't then think, well, we have cameras everywhere, so that sounds like the epitome of what the Stasi would have wanted. But he's like, but it's okay because we're going to be good guys. Well, who says you're going to be the good guys?
Right.
Well, I did because I'm saying we're the good guys and I'm a good
by
guy.
fiat. Oh, it's just because stipulated. Yes. You're the good guy.
We're the anti-bad guy squad.
Yeah. We're not fascist. We're not fascist.
Yes.
This is for you. We're doing this for you. We only beat you because we love you. Okay.
Yes. So so you get after you have your pillow fight, or if you agree to go voluntarily.
I love this. You agree to have a pillow fight with the cops, or be educated in a bus. Okay.
Yeah. So apparently, you'll see what's going on, and they shame you with the camera. You agree to go on this bus, and on this bus, apparently, there's classes that are going on. And yes, it sounds like re-education, but you're already forcing somebody to do something. They haven't been convicted yet, so goodbye the Fifth Amendment. Goodbye the Sixth Amendment at this point. Maybe he had, and I could see Chille saying, well, I think he said maybe at some point he mentioned a judge. So now we're doing drumhead court martials on a bus that's driving around the neighborhood.
It does seem like a court martial. I mean, you're literally going in front of a tribunal of some sort.
Yes. Yeah. While you're on a bus, and then, where's your Sixth Amendment right? And then once again, where's your Fifth Amendment right? And then they re-educate you.
Now, how do you? So you have no legal counsel. Well, I mean, you have a right to speedy trial. I guess that's going to happen, right? So,
it'll be very speedy.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't, hey, you did this. Go upstairs. We have to have a word with you. Now, I mean, granted, I'd love if the judicial system was a lot more expedient. Obviously, it's so slow going, and I think that they do abuse people because of that. They know people can't make their dates. They know people if they wait till the very last cutoff. I mean, they play games with the system. But
oh yeah, exactly.
So I mean, yes, there's ways to fix the system, but I don't see how Chille thinks that any of the ideas are even remotely something that any reasonable, sane person would ever want. More or less, how it would fix anything.
Yeah, well, that's because
it's Chille. It's Chille. Yeah.
He's not reasonable or sane.
Yeah, he's not. No, I agree. Yes. I think he has mental issues.
Yes, and he's going to become the governor of Ohio at some point. I guess the next time around. So he was too late now. He's
running for. He's going to be the next gubernatorial race.
Well, it's already too late. Oh. Where governor's coming up for this year in Ohio, so he's gonna have to wait for the next time around.
Because James is running for the Secretary of Interior or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, right, James? Or yeah,
this James?
Yeah, you. Yeah, agriculture.
I actually decided I was going to run for sheriff in my county, but I decided too late, so I can't be in the running. I'm still doing a campaign anyway.
Do you think you have support like that? Do you think you would get support?
Not much. No, I was just going to do it to troll my opponent. That's all.
James, do you live in Texas?
Used to. I'm in New Mexico now.
Do you have to be? Do you have to have law enforcement at all to be? Oh, okay.
Not in New Mexico. Nope. Don't have to be a certified law enforcement officer. Anybody can be a sheriff.
You just have to be. You just have to basically sworn in.
Yeah. That's it.
It's a little scary, actually.
Get the people to vote for you and
nice.
Yeah.
I would actually be very upset though if I ran and people did vote for me and I was elected. I'd be screwed, dude.
You'd be like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
How did I get this job? Well, that's how.
Free ponies for everybody.
I think that's how
you're gonna audit. You can go audit your employees and they can't do anything to you.
I think that's how Trump became president. By the way, I think he was trolling people and said, "Shit, I won."
Yes. Like shit. What do I do now?
Oh man. All right, so these buses go around, and like you said, they basically they just watch everything, and they send you to the upstairs of the bus, and they have one section for like domestic abuse, one section for whatever. And I don't think you really appreciate how many different sections you would have to have, but there's ongoing classes. So what? Then you pass the class, and then you get set free. You're like, oh, you can just go, and that's it. That's your. There's no punishment or anything. That's just re-education.
He hasn't gotten that far yet, but yeah, it sounds like it's over.
Yes, he worked out the bugs of the details.
Yeah, I think he has. I don't know if he's gotten that far yet.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at the hour mark, and I think we've kind of burned out on Chille because this. I mean, if you guys have got to watch it now, somebody had asked for your video, James, of you trolling those cops. I'll put it in the video description. I'll find it. You got mods, I think, for this channel, so you should be able to put it out there.
I think I just realized something. Sean, are you Lyle freaking Decastro?
No, I'm not. That's
okay.
That's another fat guy with a beard and glasses, though. But yes,
they all look alike. Yes.
Oh, he's hilarious, by the way.
Oh yeah, love him.
By the way, do you know Emily D. Baker?
I know who she is, and I've been on with her once or twice. Yes.
Yeah. She one of the people that are suing me gave her a letter of order of preservation, and Emily's like, so you want me to preserve all my communications with Steve McRae? Okay, great, they're preserved. I've never talked to him. She's never talked. She knows me and I know her, but we've never once had a communication. We never had an interactions. But one of the people suing me gave her an order of preservation. And she's like, okay, it's preserved. What the fuck you want me to preserve? She's like, I've never talked to the guy. It was fucking bizarre. And she basically, somebody was trying to intimidate her, and she's a lawyer. She's a good lawyer. It's like that was stupid.
She's a good lawyer. She's got a big she's got a big bully pulpit too.
Big bully pulpit now.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I did. And again, if you liked being on the show, if you want to come back again, I would love to have you to talk about the Amber Heard thing, because she did some great commentary on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah. I'd be happy to in the future.
All right. So I mean, I don't know why James keeps coming back. Can't get rid of the fucker now. But I have to tell James I actually like streaming with him. I don't know why. He cracks me the fuck up for some reason.
I've just got nothing better to do
right,
than hang out.
That's what he said too. He's got a huge, massive fucking channel. He's on all these people that watch it. His videos get like 100,000 subs. He's like, I'm bored. You want to do something? Kind of shit. He's like, I'll stream with you, Steve. Sure. I'm humbled. So okay. So let's talk about some of the other auditors, because I had reached out to some of these people that do the videos against the auditors, right? They call them frauditors. And I got to tell you, not many of them really wanted to come on. They didn't really want to put their money where their mouth was, so to speak. One of them actually had told me, I'm not going to say who it was because it's irrelevant, but they were real cool, I guess. But they were like, oh, I watched your channel and you have some kind of occult satanic imagery and we're Christians, like we can't come on. Okay, more power, it's your thing, right? But I was like, do you understand that my channel?
Where the heck is that at? I missed that part.
Oh, on my other channel. I doing what's called the Devil's Chat. But basically, I have all kinds of people on my channel: Christians, flat earthers, young creationists. I mean, I run the gamut. I mean, I'm an agnostic. I don't really take a position on a lot of things. I like to talk. I like that people come in. I'm like, so I explain to them, look, I got a huge Christian fan base. Why? Because I don't sit there and trash talk Christians. I allow them to come on and we have a conversation. Okay. But they didn't want to come on because of that, even though it was kind of irrelevant as far as the frauditors and auditors. But there are a lot of people that make these videos through auditing, and then you have the other side to make the videos about the auditors, right? So Sean, where do you kind of fall in that line? Because you're a criminal defense attorney, so I can get why you would want to defend some of these auditors things, but you obviously you know a few of them do cross the line.
Well, I think what happens is, though, people like to make fun of the auditors. It's if they do something wrong, and that's the easiest way to do it. And then after a while, I think for some people and some channels, it turns into, well, we just like watching them get their windows smashed. And it turns out they, usually like when those guys are doing it, okay, yeah, they're breaking the rules. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. And then after a while, it just turns into, well, these guys are assholes and we like watching stuff happen to assholes. And yes, on a, simple level, somebody you see you think is a dickhead getting, arrested or getting hassled or having a bad day sounds really good and it sounds really funny. Yeah. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that.
Yeah, no, I get it too. Look, yeah. Chille's a lulz cow. No question, ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's the only reason I have any interest in this fucker is that except one, he's the only difference is he is a lulz cow, but he did when he tried to scam the mother of someone who lost a child due to police brutality. You're more than a lulz cow. You're a fucking piece of shit. Okay,
sure.
But I mean, still, he's a lulz cow. But so these auditors, I find a lot of them just to be fucking entertainment. Now, I never want James to go out, and he doesn't go out by the way any longer. He just does reviews, I guess. But I never want him to get out and get hurt. Right? I never liked that. But if he got into a little, verbal altercation with a cop, I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I'll watch this shit.
Yeah, and I think there's a significant amount of the population, and I'm not saying it's the actual channels themselves, but it's the people who tune in. They don't mind watching that happen. They don't mind watching that they view themselves more as pro-police. Or if you were to ask them, well, do you like the First Amendment? They would say yes. I don't like the fact these people are being dickheads and being assholes, and I think that's wrong and mean. And that's where they start drawing the line.
Yeah, and I'm cool with that too. I think that's a fair evaluation. Now, again, they have every right to do it. I will tell you right now, the auditors that are the mean-spirited ones, I don't watch that much. I'm just not a fan of that style. But they have every right to do it. Okay, they really do. So I guess it's all a matter of taste, right?
Yeah, but then, like I said, it kind of perpetuates the ideas of, well, if you start laughing at it and you're like okay with it, but let's say you're walking down the street and you're gonna watch it happen, and that same person is acting up and the police just start beating him senseless for no reason. Are you going to pull out your camera and help that guy? Would you be, wanting to help him do what's necessary to seek recourse, or would you just say, ha ha ha, he got beat up? And that's why, like, there's some guys I watch, for example, because I've started doing like streams, like I do a stream every Thursday night talking about stuff going on during the week, but Friday, Saturday, a little bit later at night, I'll, whatever's going on, something funny to watch or cool to watch. There's a guy, Direct D. He's out of Arizona. Are you familiar with him, James?
I am very familiar with him.
So he has a court case. Often. Yeah, he has a court case going, and I made fun of he had the Zoom conferences and everything recorded, and when he's in court, I pick a part where he's not doing anything right in court, and it was very hilarious. But then again, I will also give him credit. There's a couple of videos he's done where he's been 100% spot on. And one of them, he was standing there and the cop was being a bit of a dipshit. And then he walks up to the cop car and the cop throws the door open and, almost knocks him over with it. I think there's nothing wrong with laughing at that stuff. But then also, if they do get it right, I think there's something to be said about, and look, really see what is happening.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
An audit that revealed something legitimate.
Yeah, well, like that sign-in sheet or things of that, or they have a sign on the wall that they think is a law when it's just their personal preference. That if you're not working for that company, you don't have to abide. They just can't for a public place. They cannot make up their own rules on the fly because they just don't like you. And so yes, I think that they ones that institute change or point out there's a problem with something. I think those are my favorite. Right? They've actually caused something to be done to change something that was probably unconstitutional. Because the things that it points out with the auditors is that if they're going to do it with the auditors, they are going to do it with the average citizen at some point. And some average citizen who's just going to get jacked up by the police for the same reasoning. And because the auditors just happens to be more frequently, but they're using the same tactics. That's what they're pointing out,
Yes.
So, are you familiar with I think his name's actually Taylor or Tyler, the armed fisherman?
Yes, I'm familiar with him. Yes.
Yep. See that guy has balls of steel. I have reached out to him before too, because the way I guess in Florida works. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can go to and from, and by the way, I think in California as well. You can go to and from fishing and hunting armed. Or while you're actually fishing. And so he utilizes this.
Yeah. That's the only way you can open carry in Florida.
Open carry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, he has a CWP if I understand. But he open carry. And so, he uses this to test, if cops are going to, allow him to do so. And of course he gets a reaction because cops, are overly paranoid, I think, about that. Most people that are opening carry, those aren't the people really causing the issues. Now, what do you think about the cops? Do they have a right to stop somebody merely because they're carrying a weapon that they're allowed to carry, open carry, regardless of whether it's AR-15 or what's the pistol called that looks like an AR-15? That's what he usually carries, a pistol. It's not an AR-15, but it looks very similar. Do you think that they have a right to stop and just take away his weapons? I mean, they have a right to ask questions. Don't get me wrong.
Well, I mean, they have the right to walk. They have the right to drive by and see what's going on. But that's where it should be. Oh my God, there's a guy with a gun, and they roll up, and it's a guy sitting there on a park bench reading a book, and he's got a gun next to him. Okay, they should be like, okay, well, cool, we're going. Have a nice day.
You don't think the should investigate a little bit more? I mean, obviously, situational dependence, but
yeah, it's situational dependent, sure, but yeah, it all depends on what's going on. Now, yes, if they happen to say, "Oh my God, there's a guy with a gun," and by the time they get there, he's walking across the front lawn of an elementary school,
right?
Okay, then I get the idea. You might want to get involved, but otherwise, no. A firearm or a weapon alone is not indicia of criminal intent. So it's no different than if I'm carrying a cell phone right now. Like, oh my God, he's carrying a phone. Like,
it's an AR pistol. That's what it is. AR pistol.
Yeah. He's just carrying an AR-15 as a pistol variant.
So he's carrying a fishing, right? So they know the law. They know. And by the way, I think they actually know. I mean, they knew this guy. But here's the thing: if you see a guy carrying a pole, he's armed, you know he's legally able to do it. What's the why would at that point would you even bother to ask him? You know what he's doing. You just go, okay, he's legally able to do it. Move the fuck on. Drive away. Go find some crime.
Sure. Well, that's part of the reason. Like, you should look at it and say, okay, cool, he's doing that, and drive off. I think for some cops, it's some cops, they are people who took a government job that just happened to give them a gun. So they see a gun and they panic because they're idiots and they're feeble-minded. And those people probably should have worked in the zoning department instead. And they, that happens. I mean,
no, I agree with you 100%. A lot of people are not trained properly with firearms, and then includes cops. I mean, we see all the time people look, a cop that his first instinct to pull his weapon, there's something wrong.
Yes. And that's where I think that happens. Also, it's just, I mean, that's really the biggest thing is, the lack of training, the lack of, but the lack of accountability fosters a lack of training.
Qualified immunity.
Because yes, well, it's that, but it's also departments and DA's office. Oh, we have a Brady list of officers who have had issues. That list should be guys we fired.
Yes. Yeah, and they don't get rid of them. And that's the problem. Even after they've been sued, they still keep them on the force. As a matter of fact, I saw a poll one time, and don't cite me on it because I have no idea where the fuck I saw it. But there was a poll that most of the top expenditures for people being sued are the same officers over and over and over again in the departments. And I don't know if you know my background. I'm ex-military. I was licensed to carry a firearm in Washington. I had a Derringer. I had a Jennings. I've had shotguns. I've had rifles. I like to shoot. And I got to tell you, even when I had a CWP, there was never a time ever that my first instinct was pull a weapon. Never. It just doesn't happen. The military doesn't do that. The last recourse is to pull a weapon, because once you pull a weapon, you have the mindset you're going to kill somebody. You're going to take their life. That's when you. It's not to deter. I'm sorry. It's weapon to me in my mind. If I had to pull a weapon, it was not to deter somebody. Now, granted, you still try to. I mean, de-escalation is a huge thing. Yeah. But if somebody's threatening my life and I have to pull a weapon and they don't stand down, they're going to die. And I'm pretty sure James has that same mindset.
Yep, absolutely. People ask me sometimes why I don't do open carry audits. I said, well, if you see my gun, you're not going to see it for long. Yeah. Okay. It's if my gun is out, it's out for a reason.
Yeah. And I think that's perfectly fine.
That's just me.
But see, that's not the kind of people that I worry about. Those are not the people that are committing the crimes. Those are people you fuck with, you're going to probably get killed. But those aren't the people that I have an issue with carrying a firearm, right? Because I'm sure James has some kind of firearm safety. I'm sure he knows how to unload and load a weapon, field strip him, the whole 9 yards.
I saw somebody do it once on YouTube. That's good enough.
There you go. Well, you ask Chille. Chille could give you a demonstration. Right?
Yeah. He's a constitutional law expert and a firearms expert. He trained me on all of it.
Does he do 50 cal? Because those are cool weapons. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I got one through the foot during one of our trainings.
Yeah. Well, he's badass. He just carries that 50 cal around one-handed. I mean, dude's pretty buff. So as a constitutional, a lawyer kind of, or defense attorney. What do you think when it comes to like the Second Amendment right to carry, when these people are open carrying and the cop just for some reason wants to cost them? What do you think people should do in those situations?
Well, I mean, if the police are going to start, if they, obviously if they come out and they're coming out strong, you kind of have to go with the flow. You're not going to, you're not going to win those situations. You need to, you need to obey their command. I believe that, by the way. Don't put your life in jeopardy for a moral cause like that. There's you're not going to get anything out of that. Yeah. What I would say is, I mean, that's is where, yes, you can do, like, if you're, just filming, fuck you, I can do what I want. But I would argue if there's guns involved, they're going to be more likely to immediately go to, they're going to jump to that next level. They might tase you, tackle you, something happens.
Yeah, higher escalation. Absolutely.
Yeah,
so what do you think about second? The First Amendment is obviously just whatever, but do you think that people should be doing Second Amendment audits, or do you think it pushes the envelope to put their lives in danger, or you think it's they should put their lives in danger?
I think that as long as they understand, if you do it and you understand what could happen to you, then by all means do it. But if you're doing it and you don't understand where that can lead to, I mean,
and know the law.
I think that's very foolish.
Know exactly where you can carry it.
Yes, and unlike a First Amendment auditor where you could probably get away with kind of being on the edge or not necessarily know what you're doing. If you're going to carry guns, you got to make sure you know everything to a T.
Yeah, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, if you enter a federal building that you're not allowed to have a firearm,
Yes.
you're SOL. They're not gonna give you a pass.
Well, just a federal building, but just depending on your state, how you can carry it, when you can carry
Right.
it, what manner you can do it. Make sure you know all that. Now that's fairly easy to know, but you just got to stay on top of that stuff, because once you get popped with that, it's yeah, you're gonna
What about the average citizen? Like, for example, I've watched video where a person would go on a plane trip and they would accidentally take their firearms with them. It has happened, right?
Yes, it does.
And they they can have like a $10,000 fine. They can have prison. Most of the time, for first offense, when they recognize it was unintentional, they get a warning. That's what I've seen. Because again, I don't think you should criminalize behavior that's unintentional like that. I think it's silly if that's a big fuck up. But if James was to carry right now a firearm into a airport, he's going to get fucked. Period. Why the double standard?
I just avoid any place at all whatsoever that doesn't allow firearms. So I don't even go to ball games anymore, because most of them don't allow firearms.
Yeah.
They got metal detectors.
Sure.
I want to point out also, though, and Sean, I don't know what you think about this, but it seems to me that the guys who are doing Second Amendment audits are typically a lot more educated, because you're right. When you've got a gun on you, you've got to know what you're doing and know that you're going to be stepping in a little deeper if you mess up. And so in my experience, from what I've seen, it seems that those guys are a little more intelligent.
Yeah. And then they are. And I think there's a little more poise there, but once again, they recognize they're playing in a different league. So
yeah,
it changes what you can do.
The average person, here's my again, take it for what it's worth. The average person that don't know what the fuck you're doing, don't be doing Second Amendment audits. You're taking an unnecessary risk. The ones that do it and they do it well, yeah, I think it does point out certain things. Because again, somebody who does advocate for gun usage and things of that nature, I like the fact that they're able to exercise their right and that's your right to do it. It is your right to defend yourself. I mean, I will tell you that from experience. I don't live in a bad area, but there's other areas not too far within a couple miles or a mile or something like that where there's issues, right? And the last night one of the LP persons was accosted by someone on the way home, right? And he's a bit of a pacifist. He's a pretty big guy. I wouldn't want to get knocked out by him, but he de-escalated. But if he had a firearm or something like that, this other guy probably wouldn't be walking right now. The other guy, because it was, if somebody comes to me and they're trying to fight me out of no reason, I'm probably, going to do what I have to do to defend myself, especially if I think that if it was a knife or things of that nature. So I think everybody that's legally able to own a firearm can own a firearm. You got no felonies. If you know how to handle a firearm. And I do think, though, you should have a mental wellness thing. I think that people that are not mentally well should not own firearms. I know in California that is actually a requirement for getting a CWP. You have to have mental stability.
While I almost agree with you, Steve, it becomes a slippery slope when you allow the government to say who can and can't have firearms.
I know, I think but it's a safety thing.
And don't get me wrong. I don't want people with mental.
You know what, Chille with an AR-15 carrying around, or in a
Chille
25. Right.
Chille goes around.
There's other avenues, like
Does he?
for example, my family and friends. There are some that I know that I don't think should have a firearm, and they know, hey, you can call on me or other people for help, but man, let's not keep any guns in your house, all right, buddy?
I understand what you're saying too, but at the same token, we all agree, I think there are people that are just not mentally well enough to have a firearm, right?
Sure.
And if you've been deemed 5150 before, or you've been deemed had a servicership, or if you've been deemed to have mental problems, yes, I think that should prohibit you from having a firearm. Just like we prohibit people that have felonies from having firearms. We can limit people who have access
Steve,
to
I think that if we disarmed everyone with mental illness, most cops wouldn't be able to carry anymore, though.
Yes.
They get a pass.
Yeah.
You really hate cops, man.
Here, man. Here's a wooden gun, like in the movie The Other Guys.
Yes. Steve, I guess I'll say yes, especially people who are not mentally competent, can't manage their affairs, sure. But that's something traditionally throughout history, if you're crazy, that's been the society and the community has come together like that. But, for example, a felony conviction, that's really only been around since 1968.
Yeah.
Before that, there were no. And I think, honestly, if you've, in Ohio, after a couple of years, you get everything back but that right. And I would argue the right to vote, and I've made this argument before, the right to vote is almost, well, actually, it is more dangerous than any gun you can give to a person. And I'm a guy who, behind me, there's an RPG that I'm waiting to try to reactivate. The right to vote is you exercising naked force against the people in your community. At the very low level, you're telling your city government, you're enforcing this law, and that's not law against you. And then when you get to the higher levels, you're empowering someone to say, I want you to set these laws. I want you to do my bidding. As part of your platform, you're going to do X, Y, and Z. I want you to put a law in place that eventually a man with a gun has to back up.
Yep.
And eventually, I mean, you vote for president, you're voting for a guy who has control over nuclear launch authority.
That's that's scary as shit too. I mean, seriously.
Yes. So your right to vote actually endows, more force than, I can kill more people, and it's more dangerous than any guy with a gun. And for that standard,
get away with it.
What's that?
And you'll get away with it. Well, no consequences.
Yes.
Would you guys want Trump during the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yeah, I don't know if the Cuban Missile Crisis would have happened if Trump was in power.
Yeah. Well, we probably would have been blown up long before then.
Well, no, I think they would have. I think Khrushchev would have realized I don't want to fuck with this guy.
Yeah, you know what? You might have a point, because a lot of things when it comes to world power, they have the fact that some of these dictators and people like that are just they're mercurial and capricious, and so you don't know how they're going to respond to shit. It's best to go. Hey, look, man, we're going to fuck with them, man. And Trump was one of those wild cards. You have no idea what that motherfucker was going to do.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Godless Coming for £2 says, if I was an American, I'd be a 21st Amendment auditor. That repealed the 18th Amendment, and that was for the prohibition, right? So that's for basically drinking, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that one.
Yeah,
I like that too.
But don't we do that? Wait, aren't we?
I'm auditing right now.
I was going to say, anytime we go to a bar, aren't we doing a 21st Amendment audit?
Yeah, well.
Oh shit, that's a good. Hey, Jeff, Goddess Comer, get with me later. Let's do a show on that. We can actually call that the 21st Amendment Auditors, and we just go to bars and drink, man.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome. I like. I'm not a big drinker, but I'm down for that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
just give you $1 million ideas, Sean. Go ahead, take it, man. 21st Amendment Auditor. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. I might do a live stream or two.
Yeah,
like
invite Goddess Comer and I will join. We'll have a drink with you.
Sure,
and do that. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said though, I mean, for felons, for example, you get every other right back, but the right to own a firearm. Now, if you are so dangerous, we can't give you a gun again, and we can't trust you to be around the firearms. Why are you out of prison if you're that dangerous? Because then it turns in, then we get the issue of decarceration, and there's all these things that kind of go back and forth with it. But for the longest time, you got out, okay, you go buy a gun again. And yeah, if you cause problems, okay, well, then maybe the community will say, we let you out, you tried, then you went back to being a savage, okay, well, now you're done.
So you think, okay, so your position would be then, once people have done their penance for their crime, paid the price of their crime, done their jail time, at that point, kind of go back to square zero again, giving them the chance. Because I mean, I'm not a fan of so much retribution, retributive justice. I mean, sure, to some degree, there are people that I want, the death penalty, or just I'll kill myself. I don't care. But I mean, I understand the want for retribution and retributive justice, but mostly restorative justice to me seems a lot more appropriate to have a lower recidivism rate. So if somebody has done their time at that point and they're out and they're contributing back to society and they're trying to make amends and things, I got no issue with them. Give them a gun. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I think that in that case, then yes, why would they not have the same right as anybody else to defend themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I had a guy who he was a felon and he wasn't allowed to have a firearm. Somebody called him and said, called him and his girlfriend at the time and said, we're coming to get you. And his girlfriend's cousin had just gotten killed the week before in a gang shooting. So, he armed himself and, they heard a thump, 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 thump on the door as they were on the phone with 911 and they were screaming, who is it? Who is it? And they kept on hearing banging on the door. So he takes his pistol and very much like in Snatch, he just starts shooting through the wall. Turns out it was the cops and they didn't identify themselves.
Well, I hate to say it, but these no-knock warrants and things of that nature, they put those cops' lives in jeopardy. I mean, there was not too long. Go ahead. There's a case
I was going to say the only good thing that happened to him was because he had it was clear he had it well in advance. They still charged him, but they didn't charge him with shooting at the cops because they ended up realizing stuff. But yeah, you should have the right to defend yourself, and the fact that you
Especially your own
did something.
castle.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
There
I
should
mean-
be guns in jail too. You should have the right to defend yourself against other inmates.
that's
Okay,
called-
maybe not.
Yeah, that's
But
almost
I do totally agree.
Put that in Squid
it only
Games.
makes logical sense if we're saying that it's safe for you to be out of the cage and among society. I mean, you get to drive a car, you get to, like you said, you get to vote. I mean, the right to say. I
Unless
think
you're a
it's
felon, you don't get a right to
inconsistent
vote,
to
but-
say it's safe for you to be in society, but not safe for you to be in.
Yeah,
Society.
I mean, I can understand if you've used a weapon in commission of a crime to rob something, then okay, sure, maybe you lose that right. I at that point I don't care. But I mean, again, most of the people that go to the jail, especially if you're convicted like on let's say like a drug charge or something like that, or a DUI. What the fuck does that do with protecting yourself? I don't understand why you would lose a fundamental right to protect yourself because of something unrelated to maybe a violent crime involving a firearm. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. And so, yeah, I think that it probably needs to be changed. So I agree with you on that. As far as
also, big digits, you're right. Yes, the Lautenberg Amendment should go away as well. But
which one was that one?
That's the domestic violence convictions, even for misdemeanor offenses, are now prohibitions to possess a firearm.
Yeah,
so
because because again the spouse is more likely to let me ask you a question. I got you here. Are you familiar with the Violence Against Women's Act?
A little bit, yeah. Enough.
An act to commit violence against women?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about it.
They were originally going to title it "They Aren't Listening Good Enough."
Oh God, I am not the views of the guest do not necessarily reflect that of the host. Okay. People. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna get shit for this. Oh, Steve's laughing at domestic abuse. No, matter of fact, I'm not. But I have a dark sense of humor, and everybody knows this. But yes, domestic abuse obviously is horrific. But there was one of the things I was being sued for was one thing I was suing somebody for is they had a false TRO against me and lied on the affidavit completely. That's all been under the water facts. And they had said that the judge during the ex parte TRO that they never saw any evidence. It just goes by an affidavit. That's it. That's all the things the judge saw. That it was so egregious that they had put it under Violence Against Women's Act. Would have never met the person in real life. Not a family member. Not even dated them. But it was so egregious that the judge, sua sponte, put it under Violence Against Women's Act. My lawyer was like, "That's a stupid. That's nothing. That's not possible kind of shit." And so I was suing. That's part of my defamation lawsuit that I'm suing for.
Yeah, I mean, and the issue with that is it's sad because that judge is worried. Okay, well, this probably isn't true, but if it is true, and then you go kill that person or go beat them senseless, they wake up in the morning and like Channel 8 standing outside their door saying, "Hey, Judge so and so,
yeah, no,
you turn this down. What happened?"
I am all for ex parte TRO, a temporary,
but they're granted way too much because there's the airing of caution, and it's not the necessarily protecting the community. It's like, I don't want to catch shit for messing up.
Well, yeah, exactly. But when you lie to get one, but then you further that line, compound that line by saying that a judge went out of his way when for somebody who's never met the person in real life, it's just another YouTuber. But it was so egregious that this person was calling you bad names that they put it under Violence Against Women, which must be either you've dated them or family member. And by the way,
now Steve is accusing women of lying.
Oh, yes, yeah, absolutely. Oh,
you don't believe all women, Steve?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Oh, more than just. It's so funny because now other YouTubers are making massive videos about this person, massive videos pointing out all the lies that this person did, and that person was a co-host on this particular channel at one time. So there's a relationship there, but you don't need to know the messy details right now. We'll get into that another time. But my audience is like, "Fuck, Steve, stop, just stop." We already know. Let's go back to the subject. All right. So where do you guys want to go next? Do you want to talk about some other fraud auditors, like who you guys like and who you don't like?
I'm here for the ride.
Oh, you want to ride James? I mean, I can leave.
Hey, it's 2022.
I'm just here to mess things up, man. That's all I'm here for.
Who do you watch, James? Who's some of your auditors you watch?
The only one that I regularly watch is not even an auditor, is Lack. I consistently keep up.
I've seen all the Lackluster's videos. Yeah,
I like his
another friend of Chille Decastro.
Things.
Yeah, they get along great.
Another friend of Chille.
That's right. Yeah, we're both being sued by Chili's, so
You're on the list.
yep. Let's see. Let me think of who I actually like though, because I don't watch this stuff regularly, and I never have. I watch like homesteading videos and like what is it called? A time lapse of building a barn. You know?
Yeah, that's like me too.
Amish gone wild.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, like I watch
Amish buggy races.
Yeah, like I watch. I'm watching this guy. He lives in Canada, and he like is building pretty much a log cabin by himself. You know, like I watch all kinds of other stuff.
I have a friend who he makes igloos. He's a big fan of making igloos. Yeah. I watch all kinds of stuff, man. People have, they saw my search history, they'd be like, wow, what the hell are you watching that?
A lot of, if I watch Auditors, it's mainly for, ideas to talk about.
Somebody had a Big Digit says, do you like armed fishermen? Yeah, I mean, it gets a little much with the armed fishermen because it's kind of the same thing. But the one video that I saw where there's like a whole descending of cops on him, and they knew who he was when they approached him, which at that point, why would you approach him? At that point, it is harassment because he's not breaking the law. So why would you even stop him? And detain him? Why would you stop and detain somebody knowing they're not breaking the law? That seems absolutely fucking ridiculous to me. And knowing
that the whole reason he's there is to test and see if you will choose to violate his rights or not, and you're gonna just choose to violate.
And they
his rights.
They fucked up his gimbal, or the strap thing. They screwed it all up, and all of that happened was they were like, okay, go ahead about your day, and he's putting his stuff, he's loading his weapon, he's putting the bullets back in, and they're like, don't you point this? He's like, I'm not gonna point this at you when I think I'm fucking stupid. But he's like, I'm going to load this back up and I'm going my way. And everybody was cheering them on. They look pretty fucking stupid. That was a good video.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think in their police station, in their briefing room, there's like a picture of him that says, leave him alone. Right. But they don't.
Exactly. I mean, again, here's the thing with the auditors. I'm not going to say that the auditors go out explicitly looking for a response. Some do, some don't. I think they just, got to get what they get. And some of the more interesting videos are the ones that didn't get a response. I've watched some Amagazi press videos where it went smooth as shit. And I was like, hey, I like this person they were talking to. It was really cool.
Boring.
Yeah, to you. Well, you watch Raising Barn videos. Jesus Christ. I mean, you're talking about boring videos. You watch my shit. You talk about boring videos. I think, a little bit does go a long way when it comes to the videos. But, the videos I like watching are the sovereign citizens getting their ass handed to them. I love those. I can't get enough of them.
People love hate watching.
I do. I can't get enough of them. I do. I want to see Chille to go across one of these like checkpoints. Like it was a guy named Anderson. What was his first name? Pastor Anderson. I forget his first name. But he was trying to do the whole fucking bullshit with the cop, and they yanked his ass out of the fucking car and just basically beat the shit out of him. But it was like, I want to see Chille try to pull this shit with some of these like sovereign citizen stuff with these cops at these checkpoints and just have them like just ripped out of the car. I want to see that.
Well, he's done a couple of them where he sees a stop happening. He's gotten out and approached the, stop going on. So, there's some of it out there.
Well, okay. What is the ruling on that? How far away do the auditors have to be to film? Now the cops know they can be filmed. That's a given.
Get as close as I want, bitch.
Well, it depends on your state, but generally speaking, the cops are going to say, "Well, it was too close." I mean, it's very much.
That's so arbitrary.
It is. Right. I was a kid and I got a ticket, and it was because I took off from the stop sign too fast, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It was too fast for me," and It was funny because my first car was a Subaru station wagon, so I don't really know how fast I was going, but I didn't squeal my tires.
I had a Gremlin. I went 0 to 60 in an hour.
Yeah, but that's the issue. I mean, what I would say is if you're going to do an audit, I would always make it clear there's reference points around you. So like when you did you were in the parking lot, James, where the cop said, "Hey, is that a gun on you?" You could see there were like 3-4 parking spaces in between you guys. And like, if let's say you had to go to trial, you could go out and measure those and say like each one of those is like 5 feet wide. So you're 15 to 20 feet away. Okay, that's more than enough. And I think every court would argue that's reasonable. but it's, you need to have that ways of showing that you were reasonable.
Do you think they should then, if a cop says, look, I am doing this investigation, you can film me, I'm just asking you step back 3 feet. I don't think that's an unreasonable request, though.
Yeah, but the thing is, Steve, that they always do that. No matter where
I get it.
stand.
It's a power trip.
A lot of times,
I get it. It's a power thing.
Intentionally standing even closer than I want to be because I know that they have to give me an order.
But here's
so
the thing.
No matter where I stand, they're going to come and say, "Hey, man, can you go?"
Absolutely, it is them. It's asserting their power. That's all it is.
Yes, right.
No question about that. But
and if it were about being reasonable, and there's been a ton of videos, live streams that I've done out in Albuquerque. Tons of
the sheriff, the guy that you talked to, the sheriff guy was perfectly reasonable. You're trying to be an asshole to him, but but it didn't work.
They'll tell me, hey, I'm reasonable with them because they're reasonable with me. They know, one, recording you means that I'm getting video and audio of what you're actually doing. I need the angle. I need the shot. I'm going to decide what it is. Also, I don't want to interfere with what you're doing. For everyone's sake, I don't want to interfere. And so it's perfectly possible to be reasonable. But I mean, other than Albuquerque, almost every cop I've ever dealt with on a cop watch just wants to give arbitrary orders just to give them.
That's true. I've seen that quite frequently.
And I think, Steve, when they say, like, can you move back just a couple more feet? Well, unless you're like literally standing right behind them and there's no feet of room, then 3 feet, no, the answer should be no. Like, because they are just asking you because they want to get away from them. It's just like if he was filming people walking down the street. Well, could you not do that?
Yeah, no, and I think as long as I think the reasonable man standard needs to kind of be applied. If you're up in their grill and you're like putting their phone in their face, yeah, you're probably going to go to jail. But if you're if you're on the sidewalk and you're standing off to the side and he pulls this, oh well, it's for my safety. It's like, bitch, I got a fucking phone. I got a phone. It's like, I'm not trying to fucking shoot you. I mean, you put your life in jeopardy anytime you walk down the street. Anybody can shoot you at any time. At least here it's being filmed. You're safer than any motherfucker right now, probably. Right?
People don't think about things logically. There was a case in California, I think it was way back in 2017 or 2018 or something. These guys were walking across a bridge, I think it was, near the Mexican border. They were told to leave the area. They got down, I believe they were on the ground below the bridge at one point, and they were told, hey, you need to be like a foot back on this grass area. You need to be a foot back farther than you are. And I believe one of them got arrested for not moving that foot. And I remember hearing the audio from inside of the courtroom when the judge was asking, what was the difference between him being in that spot and the 1 foot back where you wanted him to be? Could he see anything? I mean, was any view obstructed? There was no difference. And the whole point was the judge was pointing out, no, there was no difference. You were just being ridiculous.
Yeah, no, and I think that's all it really is too. There was a recent video of something similar. They were having a birthday party for a kid, and this 15-year-old kid and his father were taking a picture by a bridge that had no trespassing signs, and they happened to miss the first one. And they weren't that far in. They weren't on the bridge. At that point of the bridge, there was multiple no trespassing signs. But just prior to that, for about maybe 12, 15 feet, there was another sign, but it was not a used track, but it was private property. And yeah, they messed up. They just happened to miss the first sign. Something that can be completely under the discretion of the officer to say, hey, look, you need to move out of there, go on. But no, this guy escalated this. Completely escalated it. Wanted to get the kid for juvenile hall for being trespassing on private property for a railroad, which again was defunct or something like that. But he was like just a few feet in, and they were taking pictures for his birthday. I mean, that's just a copy and an asshole at that point. Well, what would the judge ask him? Well, you couldn't have just told him to leave the area? That's it?
Right.
Yeah, he called his mom. Yeah, active shooter saw it. The guy actually called the kid's mom because the dad didn't want to give any information. Now he's like, "Do I need a lawyer? No, I don't want to. I don't have to help you with my your investigation." The guy was cool as shit too at the beginning. He's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, we fucked up." And then they're like, the kid said one thing, and the cop was like, "Oh, this kid is giving me lip. Give me your phone information."
Too fucking bad he's giving you lip, officer.
Oh, it was the kid, and the kid really wasn't either. But
he was just mad he couldn't beat him like he probably beats his fucking wife.
It could be because, by the way, domestic abuse.
Don't Google police and 41%, guys. Don't do that.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Domestic violence is higher among cops than it is any other freaking profession, from what I understand.
And that's only the reported cases.
Yes.
Well, yes. But criminal defense lawyers have a high propensity to drink whiskey, right?
They have a high propensity to do booger sugar too. So
whatever gets you through the day, right? By the way, I think what you do is absolutely necessary. I really do. I mean, obviously, I prefer the prosecutioner side because I've sued a lot of fucking people that deserve to have some, shit happen to them. But I understand everybody has a right to a solid defense. Absolutely. No matter what you did, you have to make sure that prosecutor does his job and without it, beyond a reasonable doubt, proves, because any one of us could be falsely accused of shit. I have been, James has been, you might have been, Sean. And when you're in that position and you've been falsely accused of somebody, you want to have a good defense, right? And I think everybody should have the right to that. So I respect what you do, but the shit you probably have to motherfucking deal with, I could never do it. I would lose my mind. So hats off to you on that. James, do you want to add in on that? What do you think about criminal defense?
Shit, I hate myself. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, my video lagged for a second there.
I was just giving you props. That's all.
I'm still using Starlink.
He's not lying either. Probably he's in the middle of nowhere. It's the best thing you
can get in the woods.
Yeah, he's out in the middle of nowhere. He's gone so far off grid. Yeah.
Well, what's your biggest pet peeve in clients? Do you get a lot of clients who end up incriminating themselves by talking to the police, where you're like, man, if you had just shut up, your case would be easier to defend?
You have the right to not, you have the right not to say anything. Exercise it.
Yes. There's another it's just there's an attorney out there. He's out of Minnesota. His name's Bruce Rivers, and he says it. He says stop self snitching, and that's true. Most people are in trouble because they tell on themselves.
Yeah,
I mean that is the biggest thing. But that's really not. I mean but that's already happened. I can't do anything about it. Yeah, I mean really, I think the biggest pet peeve is really, if I, have somebody, hey, tell me everything that happened. I tell them I tell everybody all the time, there's no such thing as a stupid question. I'd rather you ask me a million questions that I have to tell you doesn't matter, instead of you asking me the one question where I'm like, oh, really? Tell me more about that. Because I've had guys who call me 3-4 months down the road. Hey, man, when all this happened, I have a question. Like, let's say X, Y, and Z occurred. Is that important? And I'm thinking in my head, yes, you would have walked out of here like it never even happened. But now,
or worse, what if they lie to you? Like, in my court case with my former co-host, not James, but former co-host, he lied to his attorney. He submitted false records to the courts, false bank records, false affidavits, false. He lied in deposition. He photoshopped things, and his lawyer had to withdraw. She cited 1.16 B 147 and 10. She withdrew. Because she had an obligation to him as a client, but also to the court, and she said, I can't continue this. So she quit on him. She quit on him.
Yeah,
because he lied to her.
Yeah, on the criminal side, though, it's a little different. You kind of have to, write out most of that. But I've had clients who, they tell me, oh, man, it didn't happen like that. And I said, okay, cool. You know what? We'll get, like, the body cam. We'll get this or that, see what happens. I agree. A complaint is just words on paper. That doesn't mean anything. And then when you get the video, exactly what, he said didn't happen. And I said, like,
well, that's what I'm saying. You can't quit on a client because they lied to you. But what happens is it fucks your defense, I assume.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating because they tell me like, oh, I didn't do it. This didn't happen like that. And they're like
okay, then we'll go with this defense.
Yeah. And then I start working and coming up with something. And then by the time I get discovery, I look at it and I'm like, well, apparently it did happen the way they said it didn't happen.
And what do they think? What do they think's going to happen there? Like,
I don't know. I mean, but I think that's an issue. Like people who just lie all the time, they just keep lying.
Pathological.
What about Chille?
Yeah, what about Chille?
Yes. Somebody like Chille.
What would you do, Chille, if it was a client? Go ahead, James. But I want to know. I want to know that.
Commit the crime too, and they told you the truth. Then you could have worked on the case from a different angle,
right?
Even if they're guilty, right? You can work on. Well, we can get it thrown out because the cops shouldn't have done this, even though you actually committed the crime, right?
100%. And I know, Steve, you kind of meant. I know you said it, and I don't think you meant it this way. But people say, making sure the prosecutor does their job. That's true, but like my goal is, I'm like Serve Pro, like the fire and water commercials. I'm there to make it like it never even happened if I can arrange it.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I'm just saying,
But one of the things is, you look, if you didn't exist, the prosecutor's job was going to be easy, right? He did it.
Oh, okay, sure, it would.
Well, and in fact, it's funny because a lot of people don't understand there is a burden of defense. People say, oh, only the prosecution has a burden. Well, maybe onus probandi is a certain burden that the prosecution has to make the case that the guy is found beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
But the defense attorney doesn't just sit there and go do nothing. They have a burden of response, a burden of reply, or burden of defense. They need to do something.
Well,
and
you have to respond.
You have to respond, right?
Because the jury, if you just sit there like a bump on a log, a jury's going to want to hear you say something. And maybe that is you just attack the prosecutor's case. Or maybe you do introduce something on your own. But yes, you're right. You can't just sit there and I can't sit there and play Sudoku.
Yep.
The jury's going to figure something out.
Hey, man, I went to law school for this.
Yeah.
We had a super chat real quick. Scallion photo for $10. Thank you. Scalozzo photo. He says, is being anti-police a waste of time? I learned from James Freeman. Wait, that doesn't make much sense. He learned from James Freeman. What? I had to read that twice. Let me read that over again. I learned from James Freeman, Dave Smith, voluntarism, even without government, police will still exist. Private police, volunteer police, freelance officer. So what do you think about that? With voluntarism, even without government, there's still going to be some kind of private sector police?
Yeah, of course. Even government was created. I think that governments are typically created, at least this government in the U.S., I think, was created for the purpose of preserving people's rights, those rights being life, liberty, and property. And that was the whole reason they created the government. My only problem with government is, and a lot of people's problem, is that it quite literally does the exact opposite of what we created it to do. And it's become the criminal that we were trying to protect ourselves from. So, yeah, in any situation where we're going to have any kind of civilization, if we believe in the philosophy of life, liberty, and property, that those are things that you have inherent rights to, then we're naturally going to continue to find ways to try to protect that, whether it's
whether by government or by private institution.
Right. And I think the difference is that the government, basically, when it's done by government, we are led to believe that government has special rights and powers and authority that regular people don't have. And so when it is privatized,
we give empowerment for that, though, right? I mean, we give
right.
a social
that's what
contract.
Qualified immunity is, really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have the right to defend my property, but if I do it wrong, I'm going to be held
sued.
accountable for it. Whereas if the police defend my property in the wrong way and shoot somebody in the back, they're not necessarily going to be held accountable for it. And that's really the only difference to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they get a special pass on certain things. I understand that every cop isn't going to know every law. I'm not going to ever hold them to that standard. But what happens is they got it wrong. The case gets thrown out. They learn and move the fuck on, right? But, if something along the lines where they shoot somebody and they kill somebody and they're just completely fucking, beyond breaking the law to do it, they should be there should be nothing but I don't understand why just because they fucked up the law, they all of a sudden get a pass. Now it has been violated a few times and they lost their qualified immunity, obviously. Like the woman who pulled a gun think it was a taser. She got well,
qualified immunity doesn't exist in a criminal setting.
Okay,
so.
and that's true. I guess it doesn't do a criminal. Okay, but even for a civil matter, right? Even for a civil, when they think, they fucked up the law, they still might have violated your rights, right? I mean, they still could have violated your Fourth Amendment right. They still could have something harmed you, and you can sue them. But when you sue them, you're not suing them. You're suing the police station or the government, and you're getting taxpayers' money is what you're getting. They're not out anything. How is that? How is that possible that they have no ramifications for their fuck ups like that?
I'm glad Sean brought that up too, because remember the first time that I talked to you, I think on the NonSequitur Show, and we talked about qualified immunity, and I told you I think there's something more important than that, and that is criminal prosecution for criminal behavior. Because you're right, not only do they get qualified immunity in civil matters, but it's so rare to see them prosecuted for criminal activity.
Very rare.
Yeah,
and it's only after a mass outcry most of the time.
Well, right. I mean, I guess I can use an example here. One of the suburbs of Cleveland, a cop got caught on camera, super aggressive with a guy for a traffic stop, didn't have a license. And the guy turns around, but not as fast enough as he liked. And they end up having him on the ground. They're just beating the shit out of him. I don't know if you heard about this recently, James. The cop's name was Michael Amiot. He beat the fuck out of this guy just with his hands. And yes, this is from 2017. Just now this year, he finally faced his trial for assault. It was misdemeanor level assault. So it wasn't like a felony. He just got convicted of a misdemeanor, so he could face up to 180 days in jail, which, and there's no, aggravating things tied to it. But yeah, he was a cop and he beat a guy, and the most he faced was a misdemeanor.
Okay, well, let me ask you about there's two. I don't know about that one, but there's two ones I do remember. One, there was a guy that was handcuffed in the backseat of a cop car that the cop hit, and two, there's another one where the guy was in a bar. He had called the police. There was weapons being drawn, but he was the guy that called the police. He was out there. He starts talking to the cop. All of a sudden, the cop sucker punches the guy.
Yeah,
you remember the video? Have you seen that video? I mean,
maybe I have.
It was just it was bizarre. The cop, the complaint was
knocks him clean out too.
Knocked him the fuck out of nowhere. It was nothing could justify this. It was
and then lies and says that there's no video and that the guy's face was all fucked up before he ever got there. And it turned out there was surveillance camera video.
He of course he lied. Yeah. So how is that? Should that person, one, ever still be with the force, and two, not be sued into oblivion as an individual, not as an agent of the state?
Well, I mean, you can sue them as an individual, but I mean, remember, they're cops. They're not, guys working for Ferrari. So like an engineer working for Ferrari. So, what are you going to get out of him? You might get his boat and his, Dale Earnhardt commemorative plate set. I mean, like, he doesn't have a lot to go off.
There should be more criminal, you think that? I mean, what should it be then?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with suing the police department. If it's, you have this guy, Steve, I don't know, if I owned a business and I had a roofing business and one of my roofers went out and murdered someone, okay, yeah, they might sue that guy, but they're sure as shit suing me. Your employer, if you're an employee, your employer is going to get sued if you do something.
Oh yeah, no, as long
and I think that they should be. And
I agree. I have very strict rules that I mean, to minimize that. Yeah,
sure. And the idea, it's tax dollars, but somebody has to compensate you. And if the police beat you,
I get that.
And that's where society should say, because people have the right to go to their city council meeting and say, like, why are the police spending all this money on whatever it is? Like, they bought a bunch of police cars. They did it every year. Why are we buying new cars every year? You'd have the right to say, like, hey, we should cut that out. Well, on the same hand, they're like, oh my God, why is the city spending $100,000 every other year because of Officer Bob?
Yeah. No, I agree. No, and I agree with you on that. Look, if you're going to sue, you might as well get something out of it, right? I mean, so the city's gonna be able to pay it, and I get it. I'm not so much having our issue with coming out of the tax dollars. That's not my issue.
Yeah,
my issue is
that
my issue is coming out of the tax dollars by the same fucking people over and over and over again, and they don't do anything about it.
Yeah, well, but that's where then you get to go after the departments, because that's a failure to train. It's a failure to correct. They have, you are now. If you have I have a roofer that works for me, and he has a history of, beating and robbing people that he goes and fixes the roofs for. If I keep him around and he does it again, well, that's my fault, and it should be my fault.
Yeah, and as a small business owner, you don't let them do that twice. This happens one time, and it's so shocking. It's like, why would you even do that? And you're out of a job. I mean, we're not going to take 6 months to do an internal investigation to find out if you did something wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would use that's an example of this cop here in the suburbs of Cleveland. He was in another suburb next door, and he got terminated for being untruthful twice through an internal investigation process, and that came out on he testified. I mean, so this is an example of the accountability thing. Nobody was ever holding anybody accountable. They just let him quit and go somewhere else.
Right. And that's department.
That's a chronic thing too. But you should, and I think there should be more prosecutions. I mean, part of that is, is it that blue wall of silence? Sure, but there's also the idea of the government going after the government. There's also the idea of, I think, the Daniel Shaver shooting that happened out in Arizona a couple of years ago. The guy's on his hands and knees crying because he knows he's about to die. The guy shoots him, goes to trial, and the jury acquits. And I think the jury's like, oh, well, I think, as I like to make fun of police, they use the John Coffey defense, like, I done tried to take it back, boss. I done try real hard. I'm just a simple policeman. And that's their argument in qualified immunity as well. Like, well, we don't know what's right from wrong. We're simple police folks.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't expect us to read.
You meet them on the street and they know everything. And quit arguing with me. This isn't an argument.
But in the court, they play ignorance.
Oh
yeah, and that's the funniest thing. I've had that happen before, where I've had an officer up on the stand and he sounds awesome on the video, and then you put him up there and you start going after him, and he completely bitches out. But I've also had ones where they continue that way, and the jury sees, okay, well, this guy's an asshole. But no, I think there should be more prosecutions. There aren't enough. I mean, if
I
I
think
had
it's the
done
only option for criminal behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're talking about
Yeah.
something civil, sure, but criminal behavior, the only option is criminal prosecution.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen enough. And that's, and okay, yeah, it's not fun, it's not pleasant, but prosecuting everybody else isn't fun or pleasant either, really.
Here's the solution, and we are wrapping it up because I don't go over two hours. So
okay.
we're gonna wrap it up a little bit. I got if people want to ask some questions, but here's the solution: go to Chille's channel and watch his videos, and he has a great solution to solve all these problems with the double-decker transparency, fascist techno state government. There you go. Just problem solved, right? Problem solved.
We'll have to raise all the bridges.
Yeah,
in America.
So, anyways, guys, if you guys have not seen Sean's video on Chille, watch it. It's called Meet Chille Decastro, Constitutional Scholar. Is that what it was called?
I think I forget what I actually called it.
Pseudo constitutional law, and you'll learn all about this guy Chille. Because I mean, this is not gonna be the last time we talk about this dude. I guarantee it, man. And I have some other people coming on for some sovereign citizenships. Hopefully, I've had some sovereign citizens on this channel, and dude, let me tell you, when I first learned about the sovereign citizenship, I was like, this can't be real. This cannot be freaking real. And I don't.
Have you had Moors on your channel?
Who was?
Do you know what Moors are?
Moors.
Moors.
Oh yeah,
Moorish Americans.
Yeah, Moors.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I have reached out to Moorish American TV. I think his name is. He's from Washington, Seattle.
Okay.
And he does a lot of that. Moorish TV, I think it is.
They're a hoot.
Yeah, they're still not the sovereigns. I've had black Hebrew Israelites.
Okay. Well, the Moors are basically black sovereign citizens. Yeah. They just the indigenous sons of Morocco.
Yeah, I haven't had specifically the Moors. I know of them, but I've had we had Dave. What was his name? Dave something or other. The guy that drinks his own piss.
What?
Yeah, he's a sovereign citizen, and he drinks his own urine for urine therapy. What was it? It's been so long. I've had so many people on the fucking show, but he's a pretty well known sovereign citizen. My audience, I'm sure remembers. I remember his first name was Dave.
Maybe I know him. I just didn't know this guy drinks piss.
Yeah, dude, it's not even that uncommon. I have flat earthers that drink piss too. I don't know what the fuck it is.
We're not talking about like a life and death situation, right?
No, it's therapy. They believe there was one. I swear to God, we wanted to end this at 2 hours, but this is
you don't mean
gold.
They drink Corona beer,
dude? I
you
swear,
mean like their urine,
dude. One guy, he had different. He would have different things to pee, and he would have them aged. Like this would be a day old, 2 days old, a week old, 2 week old, a month old. I am not making this shit up. Dave Murphy, thank you. Dave Murphy, that was his name. Yeah, Dave Murphy.
We need to have more of these people on the show.
Page. Oh, dude. Well, welcome to NonSequitur Show. I mean,
I'm gonna have to go through your archives to find that guy. Then
you're the very few people that don't have wiki pages on this channel. That my guest. Most people have wiki pages. But yeah, no, I'm gonna have him back on. And when I get the sovereign citizens, I want to have special guests on like James and you, Sean, because that subject. Oh my God. It's even worse than the Chille stuff.
I have so many questions.
Well, we'll plan on that. I want to have and I want to talk to maritime law that they spew. I want. Do you know Ken Hovind? Have you heard that name?
I have heard that name.
Okay, Ken's been on this. Ken's been big time on this channel. I've known Ken for a very long time. I've had his ex-wives come on. Ken's an asshole. And he is in my mind a sovereign citizen. And he advocates that there's the Ken Hovind with spelled Ken Hovind, and this is the capitalized Ken Hovind, which is a corporation, and that he's not this Ken Hovind, he's that Ken Hovind, and they really do. Well, I don't think he necessarily typically believes it. I think he just utilizes because he's a scammer.
Sure,
but there are sovereign citizens that really do believe that we have, when at birth, the government for some reason puts money in a special account, gives us a fictitious name, and that we are not actually citizens of the state, but then the business. The corporation with our name on it is of the state. I don't know how the fuck they think it works, but have you heard anything like that?
Oh, I've heard all of it. Okay. I've heard using the UCC. Yeah. I've heard
it's bizarre
about that.
Yeah. Orphan Red was wasn't Orphan Red that drank her own piss. I remember I did a video on Orphan Red. It was the other one that was dating the flat earther that we've had like 4 flat earthers that have been in this show that are dead now.
Oh,
yeah.
They Roblox themselves or something.
Okay. Well, go figure. One of them didn't get vaccinated and thought he could cure, the coof with, I guess ibuprofen or some shit. Another one had cancer. He thought he could just, drink some herbal tea and shit.
Drink some pee.
Yeah, drink some pee. Drink some pee. Yeah, we had a lot of just people die for stupid reasons that on the Flat Earthers. Now, also we have lost other good people. We lost a dear friend that was a producer of the show. Who was that I'll never get over. And then we had a lawyer friend that was from Ohio who worked on appellate cases who's no longer with us. But hope you guys hope you guys don't die. I don't want you to. Yeah, you guys stick around for a while, okay? It's always the fact that the either the dumb people die or the really good honest people die. I don't know. I guess all of us are safe.
Well,
then.
If the really honest people die, I'm not.
You're a lawyer.
A lot of people don't think I'm going to die anytime soon. Yeah, I'm going to live forever.
You're a lawyer, right? It's like I made one e-card one time that said if dumb people live forever. So if dumb people, what was it? I don't forget what I even wrote. If only the good die young, then I'm gonna live forever. Yeah, that's what it was. Anyways, let's wrap it up. James, why don't you go first? Let people know where they can find you, and if you can get that video to me of you calling that police, if you know which one it was, I'll put it in the video description because people are asking for that one.
Cool.
Let people know.
You can find me on James Freeman on YouTube. You can also find me on Fake News Network to see me totally raw, uncut, unfiltered, uncensored, and naked. Okay, no, not naked.
Oh yeah.
He has OnlyFans, but like I said, we pay people to go watch it.
If you watch me on the Fake News Network, you might start to dislike me because you see who I really am.
Well, I happen to like your channel stuff. You are entertaining, James, and I appreciate you coming in last minute. I actually asked James the other day, but he never got back to me, so I actually had to call or text him this morning. Hey, dude, you want to join? He's like, yeah, I got nothing else to fucking do. Why not?
I'm so busy.
All right, Sean, let everybody know how to find you. If you guys have not subscribed to Sean, go up serious. Dude, you're gonna get blown up. I have a feeling one of these days. I think your content's really good. I know a lot of the lawyers on YouTube. I know some shitty fucking lawyers on YouTube. You're not one of the shitty ones, and I respect that. And everybody who's not watched your video, they need to go watch this fucking video. Meet Chille Decastro, pseudo constitutional liars in the video description. But tell people how I can find you and get you some subs.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, so my channel is Potentially Criminal. I run that. We talk about all kinds of topics that are going on. I also am a practicing attorney in the state of Ohio. So if you are in the Northeast Ohio especially, I'm going to give my website address, SeanPMartinLaw.com, SEAN. Don't put H's in there. That's no good.
Esquire.
No bueno.
Esquire.
Yeah. Well, the Esquire too. Yeah.
It's like this Esquire.
If you're somewhere else in Ohio, give me a call. I mean, we could talk about your case, see what's going on. Chille, if you ever do show up to face your warrant,
Oh yeah, I think he had that warrant.
He's got a warrant out. He's got a warrant out of Southern Ohio. When he gets arrested, I'm going. I have
sent Chille a message. Chille has not gotten back to me. But if anybody has communications with Chille, invite him on. You guys will come on. We'll have a fun.
He's repeatedly stated he doesn't want to do things off of his channel, and it's because of interactions with James and stuff earlier. He's very cautious.
You fucked it up for the rest of us, James.
Well, previous to that, he said he wouldn't be on panels, meaning he'll only be in a one-on-one conversation because
he doesn't like anybody on. Yeah.
It's too hard to control everything and everyone when there's so many things going on around you, and he's got to be able to control the narrative. Which I'm telling you, man, if you can get him on the show, that'd be great.
Trying. Like I said,
just one-on-one.
I'm saving a lot of my bigger name guests for when I hopefully get back on the algorithm. But he'll be a draw if I get him on. He will be a big fucking draw.
Yeah, you'll be a draw for all the people who just want to see him crash and burn too.
Oh, and this is the challenge we've had. Like I said, go look at the playlist. We've had people on. We've had Jeranism and all these big psycho freaking flat earthers of people on, and they were some of our bigger videos. One of our videos has like 700,000 views for Ken Hovind was one of the bigger videos we've had. So we allow them to come on, and it's the funniest thing. I'm fair to everybody who comes on this fucking show.
Yes.
So they have no reason to go, well, I'm not going to go on Steve's show. He's just an asshole. No, only if you're an asshole to me. But I give everybody a right to come on and talk about what they want to talk about, and we'll critique it. Do I not?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yep. You're very respectful of your guests. Very.
Until they give me a reason not to, then I boot them the fuck off.
Right. And you attack ideas.
Absolutely.
But I don't think that I've really ever seen you attack a person. I certainly see you pick apart ideas, and that's a good thing.
I only kicked off a handful of people, but one of the persons I did kick off because he was trying to say that the Challenger explosion never happened. It's kind of up there with me with Sandy Hook and those people deniers. I don't want to deal with them. Holocaust deniers, they're not welcome. I will never have a Holocaust denier on the show.
What did the guy think happened, like, with all the people on the Challenger, out of curiosity?
Oh, actors, of course.
Oh.
They're all living in Miami, Florida on the government dole. They're all in witness protection or something like that. Yeah, they'll create any kind of bizarre fucking story for their alternate reality. So, all right, let's wrap it up. Guys, stick in the phone call for a sec on the StreamYards because I want to ask you something, Sean.
Sure.
And you're welcome to stick around, James. But I wanted to thank my audience as always. I want to thank the members of the live chat. I want to thank my moderators because they're amazing as usual. And I want to thank the people that have donated the super chats and become a member. And by the way, people have become patrons again. Look, and I'm going to say it. I suck at self-promotion. I know this Patreon is never going to be what it was. This channel used to get $1,300 a month just in Patreon.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was one of the highest Patrons out there. But then it went. You know what it dropped down to? $1. $1. It went from $1,300 a month to $1. I fuck with you not. But anyways, people are starting to become patron again because they're enjoying this content, and it's because I have guests like you, Sean, and co-hosts for this type of episode like James. Sort of. That make it possible. So with that, guys, I will bid you good night.